So, hi, welcome to our pub tasting channel here. We're sitting in lovely Fürth next to Nuremberg, and the weather is fantastic for a change. Doesn't happen often here at that time of year. I'm sitting here with lovely Katarina.
Hi.
She'll be looking after all the picture quality and bits and pieces.
And I will try to translate.
Yes. We'll have a bit of a talk about that first, just so that everybody gets the hang of it. We have people from all over the place today. We have people from Greece and we have people from all over Germany and so on. We're doing the tasting in English. So, we have people from Greece here in Vliho. And just a bit further down the road there's two piers sticking out in the water. And just past there's a nice little open air pub we slip into and have a couple of beers every now and again. So that's we're welcome to them all. It's great to see you. Yeah, so we will do this tasting all in English, but we will help. So like we're not going to translate sentences all the way through. Otherwise, we'll be here till tomorrow. But if you have questions and you can't quite figure out what's going on, then just write in the chat function on that side. Other side. Sorry, that's right there. Yeah, and just write in that chat section there, and Katarina and myself will do some translating, and we'll ask Kenny the questions. And so all the time you can chat and say what you think about the whiskey. It tastes great, it tastes terrible, it tastes this, tastes that. No problem. We want to know everything. We are independent. And if you have questions about how whiskey's made or this or that, just put them all there in the chat function, and then we'll do our best to help you out.
Or give the question to Kenny, and that's a very good thing you just said, Kenny, because they don't know who Kenny is. Kenny McDonald
is the manager, I would say, of Dràm. Owner, yes, in Scotland. And we have a little video which will introduce, it's just like their promo video, just goes for a couple of minutes. So it introduces Dràm and Kenny. You'll see what he looks like and whatever else, and make sure you take notice of the slow motion whiskey drinking at the end there. We find that really, that's good.
Yeah, that's very
I'm going to do one of those too. All right, we'll be back in a minute.
Okay, so hi folks, welcome to a very sunny Dumbarton. Behind me, Dumbarton Rock looms large with a cannon staring down at me, so I better behave myself. Dumbarton, once upon a time, the capital of lowland whisky industry. Nowadays, sadly not so much. Used to be 27 illicit stills here once upon a time. Today we have got Loch Lomond, slightly down the road to us. We used to have Little Mill up the road, and behind me, behind this muckle castle, stood Leaving Distillery, Ballantyne's as folk would call it, sadly gone. So what we want to do is try to re-establish the interest in whisky in Dumbarton. Dràm Group, based in Dumbarton as an independent bottler, are bringing whisky from all over the country, the very best we can get. It's going to come to your shop, to your bar, to your glass, from Dumbarton, with love. So, who are Dràm? Well, let me tell you. We're a family of independent bottlers based in Dumbarton, right under the guise of the rock. There's my wife, Victoria. She's the brains. There's my son, Rory. He's our cask manager. And there's me, Kenny, the clown in front of the camera. I do the jazz hands bit. I also get the good bit of drinking the whiskey. So what do we do? Well, our job is to scour Scottish distilleries, finding the very best spirit, the very best casks to bring to you. We will only bottle at cask strength, single cask, unchill filtered. For me, it's like a warehouse tasting in a glass. Slash it.
So there we have it. So I guess we'll just introduce Kenny. Hi, Kenny.
Hello, how are we?
Good. Yourself?
Yes, really happy to be here. I'm very, very honoured to be invited along today. I'm really looking forward to introducing what we do and hopefully winning a few new fans on the way. So fingers crossed, we'll see how today goes. Hello, everyone in Greece.
It's cool, huh? Yeah, good one.
So you have, of course, all the people from Nuremberg and Fürth and all around here. But yeah, they're from everywhere.
Got a good
from all over Germany.
All over Germany there. We've got quite a few guests.
I think certainly from the Nuremberg contingent, I dare say there might be one or two who already know me. So I apologise in advance to them. For those who don't know me, I would love to say you're in for a treat. Maybe not so much. The whiskey's better than me, that's for sure.
Well, no, I think the whiskey looks good. We've got a nice mix there, you know.
Yeah, it's a nice spread, John. One of the things that we've been really keen to do, you know, as I said in the video, my absolute favourite experience of any distillery trip is the opportunity to go into a warehouse and taste whiskey straight from the cask. So that's really what we're trying to replicate with our single cask strength range. And hopefully that comes through to some of the more experienced today. For those of you who are maybe not quite as experienced, there's a few big whiskies in here. So don't be too frightened of them.
They'll be right. They'll be fine.
No, we're really looking forward to this. So I know everybody else is looking forward, and yeah, as you can hear, so everybody that watching that, it's not my I'm not a native English speaker, so I will try and help you if you want to write something like in German and I'll translate it, or if you didn't understand anything Kenny or John in his best Australian accent said, and then I'll try and translate it if I understood what I meant.
And my guests are not used to listening to me in English, you know, so it's a new experience for them too.
Well, it's one of the things that I've always been very aware of when I've been working in Germany, is there is a really a high level of good understanding of English. Unfortunately, my English isn't so good. So the Scottish side of the English thing, hopefully it goes okay. If at any stage I'm speaking too quickly, folks, or there is something that I haven't made clear, please just stop me and we'll go back over it, and I'll try my very best to be on my best behaviour. Scottish people try to speak way too quickly. We can put whole paragraphs into one word. And unfortunately, the more of this we drink, the faster we become. So at any stage, if you need to slow me down, just let me know.
We'll just a warning about the internet. We've been having fun with our internet here yesterday. A lot of fun. If we disappear, don't panic. We'll be back.
Yeah.
We've got a plan B.
Yeah.
So don't panic. We'll be back in a couple of minutes, ready to go again, you know. But you should still be able to see Kenny.
Yeah.
Because
Kenny, you have to just be on your own.
Sing a song or do a dance or just
something like that.
That'll be perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
I think they're really into it. Do you want to tell us a little bit more where you live and about your company to start with?
Of course, Katerina. So Dràm Group are based in the town of Dumbarton, which is about 25 kilometres west of Glasgow, for people who know Scotland. We're on the River Clyde. This town, back in the day, very, very famous for shipbuilding as well as whiskey. Ships like Cutty Sark, incredibly famous ship, sailed from here, as did the Queen Mary and stuff like this, all built just round the corner from where I am. Nowadays, the shipyards are all gone, and as I touched on in that little video, the huge amount of distilling that used to go on here, it's just not there anymore. We do have Loch Lomond Group, about 5 kilometres to the west of us, and we have Auchentoshan Distillery, about the same distance to the east of us. But in the town itself, the only thing we've got left is Chivas. So this is where all your Chivas whiskies come from, is Dumbarton. And they still have the Ballantyne's brand as well, which comes out of the town too. We don't have any single malt coming out of Dumbarton anymore. So it's one of the things that, as it was a passion of mine, whiskey has always been my version of stamp collecting. I loved whiskey. From a very early age, my grandfather worked in what at the time was called Hiram Walker, which was Ballantyne's. He was a head foreman in there, but all our family come from the Outer Hebrides, so the islands to the very northwest of Scotland, between Lewis and Skye mainly. And whiskey is very much a part of our culture. It's a part of our lives. It's not just something that you would have a drink of. It was important. So I grew up with a very different attitude and a different viewpoint of what whiskey was. It wasn't just something you poured down your neck. It was something that you understood, that you savoured, that you enjoyed. And, you know, it's something I've got quite a passion for. So hopefully through our wee session today, that passion comes over. And if I can leave a little bit of my passion with you guys, I'll be a very happy man. Dramore ourselves, we've only been going as an independent bottler since the end of 2019, where we were at the time only working with Holland, Belgium, and Lithuania, of all places, which is Victoria's original home. We've now, over the space of just over a year, spread to 14 different countries around the world. And first world problems, but it's becoming very difficult. Thanks very much. That's a really kind thing to say. So long as you understand my accent, I'm happy. We're now at the stage where we just really are struggling to keep up with demand. We have our spring bottling will be released in May, and it's already sold out. It's not even in a bottle yet. And sold out to distributors, so everyone will still be able to buy it. But we have people coming to place orders, and we go, sorry, there's none left. They go, what do you mean there's none left? It's not even bottled yet. Yeah, we know. So it's a good problem to have. I'm happy with it, but it just pushes us to work harder and move more casks. So we're looking within the year to move from about 30 casks a year up to about 120, 130 casks a year. So the difficulty is finding the quality, because the one thing we will not and cannot do is come down in quality. We've set the bar high, but that's where it stays. And no matter if we do this for the next 20 years, our reputation is only as good as what goes in that bottle. The minute we put something substandard out with that label on it, we lose the faith of the people who've put their trust in us. So we're just not going to do that. So it's going to be difficult to find these casks that are going to be good enough. There will be a lot that need a little tweak and a little bit of finishing, which we'll look at. We've already got some of the whiskey today that we've finished. But so long as at the end of the day we've got top-notch product for you guys to enjoy, then we'll be fine. So there's only the three of us plodding away, myself, Victoria and Rory.
Yeah, you have a couple of pictures here. So because you're always saying we, but and you said that in the video as well, but I can show you. So that's you and your son. I still can't pronounce his name. I'm
Rory. To spell it is Ruaraidh, which is as far removed from how it sounds as you could imagine. The Gaelic language is strange. Rory's fantastic. He's been great since he joined us. Rory had spent all his time when he was at university. He got a double first in history and politics, and then just missed out on a first in his masters in history. But very, very clever lad. All through his studies, Rory and my youngest son, Ewan, both worked in one of Glasgow's busiest whiskey bars. So Rory, for a boy of his age, he just turned 25 just a few weeks back. He has a very, very good knowledge of Scotch whisky. So for someone so young, he's hit the ground running. And, one day I'll hand the baton on to him when I'm just too old and too grey. And I can sit back and let him do all the work. But he's fresh into the game now, but he'll do just fine.
And you are always in front of the camera, and behind, and in the office is your wife, or not?
Oh, the brains, yes, Victoria. The brains. There is no two ways about it. She's very good at hiding. I might try and persuade her to come through at some stage just to say hello. Victoria is the hardest working person I've ever met in my life. She will sit in front of this computer morning, noon and night. 2 in the morning, she'll still be working away. And look, either get off that computer or I'm just going to pull the main switch in the house and turn the power off. She's just driven. She's a machine. But she is so desperate to make this work, everything that we're trying to do. And without Victoria, I was asked a question in an interview a while ago, and they said, well, how does Victoria fit into Dramore? And I said, it's really simple. If I wasn't here, Dramore would continue. Without Victoria, there is no Dramore, because she is the engine room. She's the thing that keeps going. And even when everyone is just so fed up sitting in front of computers because we can't get out to see people, she's the one that lifts your head. She's the one that keeps you working. She's an angel. She really is. And without her, this wouldn't have happened. So every time I take a sip out of one of our bottles, I know exactly how lucky I am to have her as my guiding light. And that's exactly what she is.
I hope she heard that.
If she was in the room, I wouldn't be saying these things. She's a hard taskmaster. She works us too hard.
That's still really nice of you to say. So I think the people are already asking about the first one. Then we might just start the first one, or not?
Yeah, of course. Yes. There is nothing worse than sitting listening to a fat, hairy Scotsman talking about whiskey and not actually getting to drink any of the stuff. So I believe tonight we are starting our first whiskey of the evening is one of sister casks, one of twin casks, and it's a 9-year-old Glenrothes. So this particular Glenrothes, this one is cask 2850, and cask 2851 will be the Dràm that we try next. This is a really good example of what we've got to do to make sure that what goes in a bottle is just exactly the way we want it. When we buy casks of whiskey, we buy it based on the distillery. We know the quality of the spirit, but we're pretty damn sure that when we do get the samples of the casks, they're not going to be strong. The vast majority of whiskey sits in second refill casks, which means when you do get the samples, they're very pale. There's nothing of them. Next to no colour, very little influence from the oak has come into this whiskey. So this is cask 2850. This is the Glenrothes that we had. Actually, better to show you against a white background. So you can see there's next to no colour in there at all. Fortunately, we're pretty clued up in what we're doing, and I know how oak works. And one of the things that we did with this one is we decided this was for an autumn release, that late summer, autumn time. I wanted something that was light, it was fruity, it was delicate, but still packed a good punch. So we decided with this particular one that it was going to go into Spanish red wine cask. Now, to give you an idea, if you go back to there, in only 4 months, we have this. A completely different character to the whiskey. When you're dealing with wine casks, you've got to be incredibly delicate. You've got to be gentle with them, because particularly a first fill wine barrique is going to put a huge amount of flavour, a huge amount of colour into what is a very delicate spirit, which the Glenrothes is. So 4 months and no more, and it was straight back out again. And what we have here for me is, I was really very, very happy with this when I got it home. The one thing you definitely do have to do with this one is let it breathe for a little while. Initially, when I first tried this, I loved it, but there was a little bit overly powerful wine note coming through on it. If you give it just 5 minutes in a glass and just give it a little bit of time to open up, it changes exponentially. And for me, the marriage of the oak and the spirit sit beautifully together. The one thing we didn't want was a flavour so strong that would hide that Glenrothes spirit, because it's a very delicate, classic spirit. Now, Katerina and John have said to me that there are a few people today who maybe are a wee bit new to whisky. And I know there will be a lot of you who have been doing this for years. So I apologise for going back to the basics. But for those of you who aren't altogether familiar with whisky and with the best way to taste whisky, I'll take you through just a really quick crash course in the best way to get the most out of it. So the first thing we're always going to do is just let the spirit waken up, agitate it, give it a little bit of time to move around. And if you do that and you look at the glass, you will see the whisky running down the glass. Now, if this was a wine tasting, they would say you're looking for the legs. Well, being Scottish, we're much more miserable than that. We look for the tears. You look for the tears coming down the glass. If the tears run very thin and very fast, there's a light-bodied, gentle single malt. If they're very thick, very slow, big, robust single malt. And you can go kind of anywhere in between there, and you can go light to medium, medium to full-bodied. With the Glenrothes, well, actually, I've got to tell you a wee secret. Of all the whiskies you're trying this evening, I don't have any of them left. All I have are my bottle number ones. I take bottle number one from everything we ever make and keep them. And one of these days, I'll maybe auction them for charity or whatever. But these are my babies. So, unfortunately, although I have it, I can't open it. So I'm on the last lot's Glengarry of ours. So although I'll be tasting numerous different tastes tonight, it's all coming from the one glass and the one whiskey. So I've got to make this bit up. But if you look at the Glenrothes, you'll see it's quite a light, quite a delicate spirit. It's classic Speyside here. On the next step we're going to do is we're going to go to the nose. Yeah, I agree, Gerald. It's got a gorgeous kind of rose gold colour to it. I love the colour of this whiskey. On the nose, the one thing you never do is stick your nose in and go, because if you do, one eye pops out and the back of your head does this. Just a gentle, delicate, but deep breath for about 3 seconds. And away. And just let everything settle. And then again. And it can even help if you open your mouth a little and draw the air right through. You'll really get the flavours coming out of this. Now, if I were to ask any of you who are not so used to nosing and tasting whiskies, what do you smell? You'll just say whiskey, so I'm not going to do that. What I would like you to think is this sweet or is this dry? Then once you've decided whether it's sweet or dry, you work out what kind of sweetness. Is it a vanilla, butter popcorn, salt caramel sweetness? Or is it sticky, rich fruitcake sweetness? This gives us a big indication as to what cask the whiskey's been matured in. Normally going from either white oak, which is ex-bourbon, or red oak, which would European oak, would be sherry notes. This one's a little bit cheeky, a little bit naughtier, because we do have that wine barrique coming into play. So gently on the nose.
We have a couple of nosing notes as well. So maybe for all the people that are not used to nosing notes or tasting notes, there might be some weird ones sometimes. But yeah, we have a couple. So it's like a sweet fruity cream liqueur.
Yeah, it's very fruity. There's a lot of sweetness. I absolutely agree with that. For me, I get really ripe, like dessert pear, like red pears, stewed red pear coming out of this. There's red berry notes sitting in there. There's a little bit of strawberry. There's a little bit of raspberry in there. There is that creaminess, and you'll find that on the palate as well. It's got a gorgeous creamy note to it as well. And I always get a hint of almond coming off of this. There's always that little bit of nuttiness about Glenrothes, and in here I get a touch of almond. So when you put all these together, you just get this gorgeous, very rich, very fulfilling nose. Now, if you've not had a whiskey today at all, what I would suggest, the best thing to do is take one little sip, round your mouth, swallow, forget it. Sláinte.
Sláinte.
Now, the reason I ask you to do that is no matter what whiskey you have, it could be the most expensive in the world or the cheapest. When you drink the first shot of 40% plus alcohol of a day, your senses get a bit of a shock. And what you'll be feeling at the moment is maybe a little burn coming down your throat. But as I'm talking to you, your brain, which initially said, "What the hell is this?" is now going, "Well, wait a minute. It didn't kill me. It must be good for me." That's Scottish logic. So what we've done now, we've actually allowed time for our palate to open. So when you go back to try the whiskey again, this time, what to do is take a little bit bigger sip and chew the whiskey around your mouth for about 3 seconds. Now, hopefully, what you're getting at the moment is an incredible sensation. There will be tingling along the side of your tongue. There'll be tingling in the middle of your palate. We'll explain where these tingles come from in a wee while. That's different oaks. White oak will get you here. Red oak, here. That's where you taste the different oaks. In here, I always get this really sweet kind of honeysuckle note coming out of it. It's creamy, the mouthful. The mouthfeel of the whiskey is this gorgeous creaminess to it. Finish in a normal red wine. No, it's a full barrique. It's not a quarter cask. So that is a full red wine barrique, which will hold, that particular one was somewhere in the region of, I think it was 140 litres. So it's great because with the hogshead that we had, we were able to get just about everything in there. There was a little bit left over, but not a lot. Really nice to see somebody saying that, you know, Glenrothes is a favourite of theirs. I'm very much a fan of the distillate that Glenrothes turn out. They're an incredibly good quality distiller. And this is why I love to be able to get my hands on Glenrothes and play with it.
So I think that why Heather is asking about the water is I don't think everybody is used to drink whiskies, cask strength.
Exactly.
Maybe we have to explain it a little bit, that you can put a little bit of water in. What do you think about water?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, I think the most important thing for anybody, Katarina, is when they're drinking whiskey, is you drink it the way you like it, not the way that I tell you you should like it. That was very much one of the bad habits that we had in Scotland in the past. Was, you know, you would have someone come into a bar and order an American ordering a 21-year-old Macallan and a can of Coke, you know, and the barman would just go, "No, I'm not serving you. You're not getting that." Now, see, at the end of the day, okay, they're wasting a whiskey. Nah, it's only Macallan. Doesn't matter. But they're still wasting a perfectly good Scotch whiskey. But you know what? It's theirs to waste. It's not for me to tell them how to drink. It's entirely up to them. And all that matters is that what we bottle, you enjoy. So if it's too strong, and I know that with a lot of our whiskies, everything's cask strength. So when you are looking at these quite full-on strengths, feel free to put a little bit of water to bring it down. There's a difference between putting a couple of drops of water in a whiskey or actually watering your whiskey. Traditionally in Scotland, the only thing that we would ever be allowed to put into our whiskey was water. And there were always water jugs on the bar for people to pour into their whiskies. Personally, I like it as it is. Now, I hate to tell you guys, but at 55%, this is one of the soft drinks of the evening. So,
That's why I wanted to ask you.
If we're dealing with water to dilute, that's fine. The vast majority of times you'll deal with water when it's single cask whiskies like this is you just put a couple of teardrops in and no more. I used to, you can now get really fancy pipettes to drop in, and I always used to use just a little straw. Yeah. I just used to use a drinking straw, put it in a glass with my thumb over it and just drop a teardrop in. And the thing is, you will find an exponential change in what's going on in there. Yeah, I'm loving these. This is all really good notes that are coming up. Really agree with you, Luther. One thing I didn't mention was orange. And yeah, there is. But for me, it's like flamed orange over a drink rather than that really deep orange in there. It's just that hint, that tint. Bitter orange. Yeah, bitter orange. Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah, our guests have been practicing for the last 6 months. You know, we've been in lockdown.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Well, today's our anniversary with online tastings. So,
happy anniversary, folks.
yeah,
one
that's
year.
1 year exactly. So 1 year before.
And you invited this idiot along. Surely you could have done better than that.
Their very first online tasting was rum tasting with Gerald, and Gerald is watching as well. So you've seen his comments as Gerald's tasting. So it's happy birthday to Gerald as well.
Yeah,
excellent. Yeah, what was saying about the water? If you do put 2 teardrops into your glass, you're going to find a big change in the whole character of the whiskey. You tend to find the alcohol feel drops. The spice level might lift a little bit.
Yeah.
But it feels like a different dram completely. Now, 2 things happen when you add water to ethanol, the only alcohol we can drink. There's actually a thermal reaction in that glass. First of all, there are natural oils, esters, in there, and it splits the oils. That allows some of the more subtle, more delicate flavours to come out. But most importantly, with this thermal reaction, that liquid, if I put water in there, that will heat up by about between 1 to 2 degrees. So what? We don't feel that. We don't notice it. But the best way to describe it is if I had a cold bowl of soup. Nothing. I start to warm that soup up. Oh, the flavour opens up and really comes at me. And that's what happens when you put a couple of teardrops of water into your whiskey. Some it works fantastically well with, others not so well. I always find, and it's not a rule, but I always find that a whiskey that has been matured in white oak, so ex-American bourbon barrels normally, will really benefit from a little bit of water. Not necessarily if it's been matured in red oak, European oak, so it's Quercus. It tends to bring out a little bit of sourness. The spice level can change. And every now and again, particularly in a lot of older sherry barrels, you'll get a little hint of sulphur coming out, which you really don't want. So, unfortunately, there is no hard and fast rule to this. It's just a case of playing and seeing what works with what. But remember, that's a toy. It's for us to play with. The more you play with it, the better you become at it. If you're not having fun with it, don't play with it. It's that simple.
I'm very cautious with water, you know, like with the big Islay whiskies. I find Islay whiskies don't always end up in the best place with water. I don't know why.
I totally agree with you, John.
They get really sharp and
I think
that's all right. I'm not going to play with it. It's good.
If I'm happy, and I would always encourage everyone, taste it neat first, because you can always add water. You can't take it back out again. So if you try it neat first and it's good for you, fine. Drink half of it, then try it with a wee bit of water. It might not work. But the last thing you want to do, and I see it so often, is people automatically putting water in their whiskey, and you go, whoa, back up. Try it as it is first. Then start playing with it. But you've got to understand the spirit before you start playing the game. So always neat first and then move on. And that way you'll get the most out of your whiskey, guys.
That's a nice dram you got here.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
The one disappointment that we had, and it was all COVID related, where we had massive problems with staff shortages in the warehouses and the bottling line. We are very fortunate to have a really good partnership with Angus Dundee, just outside Glasgow, who warehouse for us, re-rack for us, bottle for us, one-stop shop. They're great, perfect. But they, the same as everybody else, had been hit with the virus. So this was due to come out, it was kind of late summer, early autumn. And the idea of the wine range was we wanted something that was just perfect for these late summer evenings. You know, you're sitting in the garden with friends, it's not too hot, but it's still short sleeves. It would have been perfect. And unfortunately, by the time we actually got it out, it was in the middle of October and it was snowing. And I thought, But you know what? There are still some of them around, and we're now coming all the way around that cycle into the beginning of spring. So hopefully the ones that are still there, people are going to enjoy sitting in a bit of fresh air and enjoy the delicateness of it. You know, for me, big, heavy, full-bodied whiskies, they're winter whiskies. They're ones for the fireplace with half a metre of snow outside. This is for the fire pit in the garden, sitting quite happily in the evening, all day long. So
that snow, we got snow forecasted for tomorrow, I think.
Yes. So have we, unfortunately. We had, you know, we were talking just the other day and the weather was glorious. It was beautiful the last few days. And yeah, tomorrow is when it snow. So welcome to Scotland, I suppose. You know, that's we're used to it.
Also April, so I mean that's quite normal. That you have sun on the one day and the next day snowing. So it's called April weather in Germany.
Yeah, the latest I can ever remember it was the very end of May. That's the latest snow I can remember here. And even
that's really late. Wow. Yeah,
it's out of order. Scotland has, for those of you who have been to Scotland, our weather is peculiar, to say the least. Now, you can sunbathe and ski in the same day, and not necessarily because you want to. Four seasons in a day is quite common for us. We are actually starting to get hotter summers. A few summers ago, we hit 30 degrees for the first time. And to see Scottish people in 30 degrees is one of the funniest things you'll ever see. Just blind panic. You know, 30 degrees to us, that's not weather. That's a temperature you cook things at. Setting on the oven, you know. Right. So I digress. So that was our whiskey number one. That was Cask 2850, which was one of two different Glenrothes's. Before we move on to the second one, I want to give you just a wee bit of background about Glenrothes Distillery itself. Quite frankly, it has got no right still existing. It has been a disaster from the minute it was built. It was originally built in 1878. Its first whiskey ran in 1879, 28th of December, 1879 to be exact. That was exactly the same day that very close to them, just on the other, there's a bridge that crosses a river called the Tay. Glenrothes sits on one side of the Tay, Dundee sits on the other. And on that day, the very first day that they ran their whiskey, a train crashed off the Tay Bridge, killing a lot of folk. So that was its original running day. They got back to work and they plodded away, and then in 1903, when they started to expand, 1897, they had their first fire, and that fire just about destroyed the whole building. They rebuilt it, they started again, and during expansion works in 1903, there was a massive explosion, and it destroyed half of the building. But they rebuilt it, they started again, and in fairness, for nearly 20 years, things were okay. In 1922, warehouse number 1 went on fire and they lost over 200,000 litres of whiskey. If it were me by now, I would think someone's trying to tell me something. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But no, they kept going. They got away with it for 40 years this time before their next fire in 1962. And in 1982, they decided the building was so dangerous that they demolished the whole thing and rebuilt it from scratch. So the Glenrothes plant that we have nowadays is a much more robust, much more safe plant than it was in the past years. But the very fact that it's burnt down 4 times and exploded once, it's doing pretty well that it's still here, I think.
Hard to get insurance, mate.
Very hard to get insurance. Just actually living in Glenrothes makes it hard to get insurance. It's not the most salubrious of areas, but by God, it makes good whiskey. So we're not going to argue with it. So has anybody got anything that they would like to share about the first whiskey this evening, the Glenrothes and red wine? What's our thoughts? Very sweet colour. Beautiful, Paul. Thank you very much for that. Excellent.
Pepper,
yeah. So Jürgen, he's doing whiskey tastings as well as Gerald. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I totally agree with you, Jürgen. That's really good comments. Just out of interest, is there anyone who didn't like it?
Not so far in the comments.
You just have to wait about 15 seconds because they're about 15, 20 seconds behind.
This is true. It's when they put the caps lock on to type what they mean, then you know you're in trouble. Yeah, water really does open this thing up. You know, just a comment there that it brings out cinnamon notes, which you just don't have beforehand. For me, I actually really enjoy it without the water. I like that creaminess. I like that really rich palate that you get with the red berry and stuff. But equally good either way. And, you know, so long as you guys are enjoying it, I'm enjoying it too.
Great.
I don't think there's any problems there. I think everybody's
I think they're all
sitting there
finished, the first one.
Yeah, we could.
Well, okay, in fairness, I've talked that long, it probably evaporated. So moving on swiftly, we're going to go to the sister cask. Now, albeit no 2 casks ever taste the same, but when we looked at the 2 samples, when we drew our samples of these casks, you couldn't determine much difference between either of them. So it was a really interesting experiment for us to take one way and one the other. So what we did with the second one, with cask 2851, is it went into a muscatel cask. Now, muscatel whiskies, you know, whiskies matured in muscatel barriques. I'd tried a few times before and I was a big fan of them. So I was really keen to see how this one would work out. And the plaudits that we got from this whiskey were superb. The feedback had been, you know, way beyond our expectations. This one we left a little bit higher. We left this one sitting up at 58%, which was its natural strength. With the whiskey you just tried at 55, we did reduce it a little bit because red wine doesn't work too well with overly strong whiskey. You've just got to temper it a little bit. But the muscatel worked a treat. So we left it at 58% for the muscatel. In this one, you've got this gorgeous kind of luminescent gold colour coming off this particular 9-year-old Glenrothes. On the nose in here, you get the vanilla notes coming out, which you didn't get as much in the last one. The whiskey itself, for the vast majority of its life, had sat in refill ex-bourbon casks. So Quercus alba, which is white oak. And then went into this muscatel cask, which was also white oak. So you always get that vanilla note coming from white oak. So that's where you get that quite pronounced vanilla. What I loved in here, there was a little kind of charred oak overtone working away. It's just this depth in there. There's a nice level of tannins and spiciness playing away. There wasn't one particular flavour in the nose that just jumped out. A little bit of floral notes, quite fruity, but nothing overwhelming. On the palate with this one, I'm still drinking the same whiskey, but hey, I've just got to pretend. It's a Glengarry. I love Glengarry, so I'm a happy man. On this, I got a really, it was almost, we've got a sweet, like a candy over here called barley sugar. And for me, it was like barley sugars. It had that sweetness but freshness of the barley coming through. And it just, there was a little kind of floral, kind of heathery floral note going on in there. There's hints of green apple sitting in there as well. Totally different from what we had earlier on with the red wine barrique. But the one thing that I really wanted and I was happy that I got, you can still identify the spirit as being a Glenrothes. We've not gone to the extent where the cask is overtaking the spirit. So it's still very obviously a Glenrothes, but you can see, and again, this Muscatel was only 4 months for the finish. But within 4 months, these two very parallel whiskies just went their own ways. And I just love it. Absolutely love it.
Could you explain what Muscatel is to the ones that don't know that? Because we have, I think, a couple of beginners, I would say, or not?
Yeah, more or less.
More or less.
Yeah. So Muscatel is quite a weighty wine. I'm not a particular wino. I know what I like, but I don't really know why, if truth be told. Actually, give me 2 seconds and I'll call someone who does know, who knows a lot more about wine than I do, because she can explain to you. Victoria, come hither.
Come hither.
Come and explain Muscatel better than I can.
No.
Yes, come on. Come on in.
No.
Right, shout it.
That was a sweet wine.
Yeah, from where?
Sweet?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That it?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, she's not for playing. I told you she does not like being in front of the camera at all. Yeah, it's a fairly weighty. Normally, I think the Muscatels I've had before are Spanish. It's quite a sweet wine, not to the Sauterne level of sweetness, where you get that really kind of sticky, almost syrupy dessert wine, but it's got a really good weight to it. If I'm drinking a white wine, I want something that's bone dry. I like it really crisp and dry. Mm. This is a very sweet, rich wine. Not really my cup of tea, if I'm being honest with you. But the one thing I do love is when you do get these quite weighty wines. If you look at even fortified wines, sherry, great example, portwoods, Madeiras, these kind of things, they bring an incredible balance of flavour and spice to a good spirit. And Muscatel, very much in this case, for me, it really kind of livens up the quality of the spirit that's already in there. It just lifts it. You know, you get that gorgeous sweet nose coming through. It's made from, and now that I've got to be honest, I'm cheating here because I'm reading it off of one screen. It's like one of the grapes that is one of the most kind of pronounced fruity grapes that they use in sherry. So we're going to get that little hint coming into play of a slightly kind of sherryish note. Again, what we looked at earlier on, yeah, that's orange. I'm just reading it off of this right now. From the Muscatel grape, orange blossom is very much something that's coming into play. I'm really happy to use oak. I don't necessarily know how it works. And that kind of caught me out a wee bit, but a really good question. And more, funnily enough, of all the ones that we used, we had a very dry Madeira, which we had a 7-year-old Aberlour in. Any Madeira finished whiskies that I've had in the past have always been quite sweet. So we decided not to put the Madeira name on it, and we just called it Portuguese red wine, because I thought it would be a little bit misleading. I can tell you about Madeiras. I can tell you about Riojas and Temperillos. I can tell you about Sauternes, which the Tom Till went into. Don't ask me to tell you about Muscatel, for God's sake.
I'm sorry for asking.
Well, they're quite popular, Muscatel. I know we noticed that Billy Walker with his Glenallachie, he's doing Muscatel as well, and there's quite a few people using the
We had quite a few in the last year of online tastings.
Yeah.
I think it's got the perfect sweetness for whiskey. You know, it's going to bring something to the table that's not going to overpower the whiskey, but it's going to be really flattering to it. It's going to work really, really well. And I think that I've tried a lot of different whiskies where they just haven't worked for me. They've been finished, and you think, why have you done that? That's ruined a perfectly good spirit. A good example for me, I really don't like peated spirit in red wine. For me, they just don't work. I know Springbank do them a lot with Long Row Reds, and people love them. People adore them. But for me, it just doesn't work. And it doesn't mean it's not a good thing. It just doesn't work to my palate. I've got to try to find a way where I'm not making whiskey that just works for me, but I've got to make it general, you know, to spread the love as much as I can, and not have this very, very unique little niche of people that love it and everyone else goes, oh my God, what have they done with that? So yeah, I think it's experimenting, you know. Any finishing, although, you know, I'm pretty well read on how it all works, you're still kind of sitting like that. You know, you close your eyes and cross your fingers and hope for the best. If the cask wasn't any good, we would just sell the cask on to another broker and not bottle it. It has to be right for us, and if it's right for us, great, and if it's not, forget it. So, going back to the muscatel that we've got here, the one thing I loved was, you know, there's been a few comments popping up, is this time it's a candied orange. It's not that really sharp, bitter orange zest of a flamed orange. This is a sweeter, richer, almost stickier orange note in there on the finish of this whiskey. And it makes it very Moorish. You want to just keep going back for another wee nibble at it. And that's why we've got none of the damn stuff left. Because I sat down with it and had a few drams on a tasting one night and just kept going. Well, this is good. Go on.
So what Uwe is writing is quite good, because I think pepper and Scottish orange jam, that's really what I'm having. You haven't tried it, so try it.
No, I haven't tried it yet. No.
Yeah, it's a kind of our marmalades, which is that really quite rich, strong Dundee marmalade in particular. It's almost got a little bit of bitterness about the orange in it, but with a heck of a lot of sweetness in it as well. And the one thing that I love about this particular Glenrothes is the balance of it. Everything works. Everything sits together beautifully with this one. What's your own thoughts on that one, Katarina?
So I had that one before. So it's not my first time, because I had that together with you in the Frauenstammtisch and the girls thing.
The girls, yeah.
And so we talked about it. So I'm a little bit, biased, you know. So that was my favorite one the last time. So I really like it. So I like the peppery note.
There's the spice level in this is much higher than we had in red wine. You're definitely getting that from the white oak. The very fact that it's been sitting in white oak all its days, albeit different casks, that brings what the spice that you get out of white oak mirrors white pepper.
Yeah.
And that's why you taste it here. You taste it on the sides of your tongue. So when you're drinking this whiskey, the feel of it, you'll feel it running up and down the sides of your palate here. You know, with some of the ones that we'll look at later on, particularly in the Tullabarton, all the flavour will be right down the middle of your palate. Nothing on the sides, right down here, because it's all red oak.
Yeah.
But that's really this great spice.
So it's like 3% more alcohol, but it's much softer.
Yeah, it's a good finish. It's a good finish. It's not overdone. It's a nice finish. Nice marmalade. It's really good.
It's really round. I really like that.
I think the key to finishing sometimes is patience, but sometimes is not being too patient. You've just got to keep checking, because it's very easy if we just let this run a little bit too far, you lose it. There's just that perfect time to grab it. And the minute you hit that moment, that peak, if you don't hit it there and then, you've lost it. And, you know, you curse yourself forever and a day for not catching it at the right time. This one we definitely caught at the right time. I'm really, really happy with this Dràm. And, you know, it's one of the things now that we have done a little bit of playing with muscatels. In fact, with all the wines, we will revisit these. But we don't want to become this just one-trick pony who just does everything in wine all the time. So, you know, we've got to mix it up a little bit, otherwise we become boring. So there will be, at some stage, other wine finishes coming out from us. But, yeah, that's what we've done so far I'm really happy with. But we've got to show that there's a little bit more to us than just that, so... But I think it's a really nice way to start a tasting when you get the opportunity to look at two sister casks.
Definitely.
You know, the real difference between the two. One of the things that I'd really like to do in the future when we're looking at tastings is we always draw samples of product before finishing. And what I'd like to do is draw a little bit more of it before finishing, because then what we could do is send out to you guys a little bit of this, and you can try it before and after finishing.
That would be perfect.
Yeah.
Everybody would love to do that kind of tasting.
It's very interesting, especially like when you get new make as well, like when it's first distilled. So you've got it before it's even hit the barrel. It's very interesting to see what direction the distillery's already in. I've
got a fair bit behind me. And I must admit, I have got a real love for new make spirits. I really like the flavours. You know, much fruitier than you'd ever expect.
Fruit and grassy. Fruity and grassy, I think. It's really nice.
It's almost that, it's like fresh cut grass. You know, that sweetness that you get when someone's just mowed their lawn. It's that sweetness that comes into it. And straight away, you can tell what direction that distillery is going to go in from that new make spirit. You go, oh my, this is going to be superb. I remember the first time I was given a chance to try King's Barnes, the Weems family from Fife. I tried it, and I know their master distiller pretty well, Peter, and I'd said, Peter, for God's sake, do not put this into something heavy. Please put this in something gentle, because that spirit is out of this world. And he went, oh no, we're going to be really gentle with it, Kenny. And I went, thank goodness for that, because this is, I could drink it as it is. That's definitely, that's something that we'll try to do in future, because it will give you a really good chance to kind of look at how the whiskey grows up, you know. Harder to do from the new make perspective, because when we go and buy these casks, you know, if I look at likes of Linkwood, for example, Diageo are not overly keen in handing out new make spirit to people. You know, we are quite fortunate where I've worked in the industry, it's about 7 years as a freelance brand ambassador before doing this. And I know a lot of people in the industry, so we're fortunate where we get good offers of good casks that other people can't get their hands on. And there are certain people that I would like to go and have a wee word with and say, you know, maybe we could get some new make of that so that I can show people. For example, we will have later in spring our next release. One of the ones that will come out is an Inch Fad. So Inch Fad is peated Loch Lomond. It is stunning. I'm so happy with this whiskey. And I'm really good terms with Loch Lomond Distillery. So I think that's one that we could probably get new make spirit with, and we could work it that way. But we'll find out. But if I can do that, I'll definitely send some over to you guys, and it'll be lovely to let people see the kind of before and afters, you know. Stout cask finishing. I've had, now I'm trying to think, the only one that I've had, what did I have in stout?
Dingston, maybe. We had one a month ago.
No, but from Dràm, I mean.
No, I've not done any. I've not done any stout yet.
We had a Dingston, yeah. And we had a couple of whiskies in stout cask finish. So Garrett is watching. Please tell us what whiskies we had in stout cask finishes, because, you know, we can't remember.
No.
I've had a few different beer finishes, and I'm not a great fan of Like some of the Glenfiddich IPA, it didn't.
No, that
didn't
wasn't good. Mm.
I'm not a big Glenfiddich fan anyway, and I really don't like IPA. I love my darker, heavier beers. It's too, I don't know, too citrusy. It doesn't work for me. I like really dark beers. I love a good porter, things like this. Or in a really hot summer's day, a crisp, clean, freezing cold lager. Perfect. But don't start hitting all this hop. Funnily enough, we've got really good friends just down the road at Loch Lomond Brewery who we're going to start supplying with whiskey casks so they can do their beer as whiskey finished beers.
Yeah.
But what we would like to do is give them those casks so they can finish their beers. Then we'll take the cask back because it'll now be a beer barrel and see what we can do with it. So, it's all about playing. It's not just drinking it that makes it the toy. Everything about this is a big game. I'm going, right, well, what bit fits with what? And there's no rule book. There's nobody can open an instruction manual and say, oh, that's what we've got to do. We don't have a clue what to do. We've got to make it up as we go along. And you cross your fingers and hope that it works. But I certainly, the stout and the porter side of things, I would be very keen to look at. You've just got to get the right spirit for it. Like the Glenrothes, I don't think would stand up to it well. I think we'd lose the Glenrothes in there. Deanson's a much heavier spirit, so it's a good example of something that can really stand up to quite a weighty flavour coming into play. But
it was good. Nobody complained. Yeah.
Definitely something I would look at doing.
No water with this one, Kenny. I'm going to leave it as it is,
Yeah, I would with this one.
Maybe the others tried some water.
Yes. Notes.
Just send us your notes and just send us what you think about the second one. That would be great.
Yeah, I'd love to know it. And do you know, it's really important, folks, to be as honest, brutally honest sometimes if needs be. If there's something you don't like about something, that's what I really need to know. Because, and I understand it's difficult when you've got somebody on and it's their baby. Everybody says nice things. But if I don't hear that, oh, well, I didn't like this and that didn't work for me, we can't learn. And if everyone's always, don't get me wrong, if everyone's happy, then I'm happy. But if it's something you're not happy with, let me know, because then we can take that on board and say, well, there's been a few notes of this, that, and whatever. And that's when we can work to eradicate that and to change the way we do it a little bit. We're always learning, folks, always learning.
So what do you think?
I think it's a great drop. Yeah, it's good. It's a great finish. I don't like, I'm not a big fan of whiskies that have been stored in a sherry barrel their whole life or a port barrel or whatever. I like a finish.
Yeah.
I like a finish, something that complements the whiskey. What I don't like is something that overpowers the whiskey. I get that feeling that they actually want to overpower the whiskey because maybe the whiskey's not that good anyway. So they just leave it for,
I totally agree with you, John. That's always been my opinion of something that's been very, very heavily finished, is because the spirit itself isn't that good.
Yeah.
And if you have got this huge, big, heavy chunk of finish on it, you can hide anything. You can hide faintiness, you can hide sulphurous notes, you can hide anything you want. For me, a finish has got to be something that complements the spirit that's already there. It should fit together.
Exactly.
They shouldn't have one overriding the other. And I think with this one, we've got it right with this one. That's for sure. Says me, modest.
So Heather preferred the first creamier vanilla notes of the first, yeah.
Okay.
And Uwe's thought of the two sisters, the first was a little pretty nice.
Well, do you know, that's quite a good way to put it. I think the first one is much more demure, it's more delicate. I think the second one's a little bit naughtier, it's a bit spicier. And the very fact that we've taken it up to the 58 with this one, it's a little bit naughtier as well. So, yeah, I think that's a nice way to put it. But I think the two work well together.
Yeah. So, and Paul Daniels said, I prefer the first and will definitely get a bottle. So if you are living in Germany, sorry for the rest, but if you are living in Germany, below this video, there's a link down there, and there is the link to the whiskey shop we got all the whiskies from this time. It's from Gradls Whiskyfässla in Nuremberg. And so he still has a couple of bottles
Well, he's still got
of,
bottles,
of the ones what we're having tonight.
Yes.
Because Kenny doesn't have any more.
No.
But Michael still has a couple of bottles.
I'm not quite sure how many he's got, but he definitely
But
had
he
some.
still
Yeah.
has some, you know that. So be fast. I think
Well,
it's like
please feel free to empty his stores, ladies and gentlemen. You'll hear no complaints from me. Yeah, yeah, that's a good shout. It is quite a summery whiskey. I think, you know, going back to what we were looking at, we wanted this for that late summer evening, and that's what I really wanted these whiskies to be. I've only ever had the opportunity to hear a critique done on them in that weather once, and it was a tasting that I did for a group of friends of mine, one of whom was lucky enough to be in his holiday villa in Lanzarote for Christmas and New Year. And I could see with the sun hitting off of the wall behind him, you know, it was 7 in the evening or whatever. I said, Mark, what's the temperature out there? He went, it's about 23, 24 degrees, Kenny. And I thought, one, I hate you. What does the whiskey actually taste like in that temperature? Because that's what it's designed for. He went, perfect. I'm like, bugger. I wish it had got out in time, but we'll just do it again. We'll do it again. So, guys, that's 2 down. We're now going to move. That was the releases that should have been out late summer. We're now going to move on to the releases that we brought out just before Christmas. This should have been out at the end of November. Same problem again. You know, it's virus and, you know, staff shortages, etc., etc. So we just got this out in time for Christmas and no more. And it was 3 casks. We had Balblair, we had a Linkwood, and we had the Tullabarton. So the first one we're going to look at, folks, is the Balblair. Now, we're moving away from finishing here. No finishes on these ones. They are pretty much as you get them. And this Balblair, oh, sorry, that's a lie. This one's finished. The other 2 aren't. So this one has got a very, very subtle PX finish to it. The one thing, you know, going back to what I've just been discussing with John, I didn't want anything too heavy for this spirit. Balblair as a spirit is actually incredibly delicate. It's got a lot of body to it, but it's a very fine spirit. This is one of our oldest distilleries. It was originally, well, first records go back to 1790 of whiskey being made on site at Balblair. Licenses weren't granted in Scotland until 1823, so anything up to or before 1823 is always clouded with a little bit of mystery. We don't know 100%. We do know that they've got the earliest written records for actual accounting on whiskey that date back to 1800. So we know that they were working as a proper business, creating whiskey, rather than the way a lot of distillers would do, where there would be farmers, really, who were just using up excess barley, was basically the way of it. Balblair were working as a proper business, trying to actually get spirit out to clients. This particular distillery used to always run on vintages. Balblair didn't used to put an age on their whiskies, so you would have a 1996, a 1998, a 2000, that kind of thing. That all changed in April 2019, where they kind of jumped on board with the rest of the whiskey industry and started doing age terms on their whiskey. This particular one, as you can see, has got an age on it. It's only 8 years old. It's quite young. But I'm a firm believer, if a whiskey is good enough, then it's old enough. long ago abandoned the notion that older whiskies were better and younger whiskies were poorer. Sometimes that's the case, not all the time, as we'll see with our last whisky today. Don't get caught up with the numbers on the bottle, folks. Just trust the spirit for being what it is. The one thing I always find, if a distiller is keen to put a young age on a bottle, that says they're incredibly proud of what's in that bottle. They're not hiding it. They're not going under a no-age statement with it. They're saying, this is only 5 years old, and I'm damn proud of it. So I think it's quite a bold statement when someone comes out with that. So although a lot of these numbers fall under the kind of classic 10-year-old, don't worry about that. It doesn't make it bad whiskey. In fact, sometimes quite the opposite. With this particular cask, it sat for 8 years. It just missed its 9th birthday, but we had to bring it out because folk were complaining that it wasn't there, and we needed it for Christmas. So this was 8 years and 7 months in a refill bourbon cask. And then, as we did with the previous wine casks, 4 months in Pedro Hemings, first fill Pedro Hemings. Now,
So we have questions. What is Pedro Hemings?
Pedro Hemings is probably the heaviest and sweetest sherry you'll find. Very, very dark, very rich sherry, very much a dessert sherry. It carries a little hint of almost like espresso coffee note through it. Really deep, dark, really dark, organic dark chocolate, that kind of note coming through in it. It's the kind of thing that I love. I'm not a big sherry fan. I love what it does to whiskey, but I'm not a big sherry fan. If I was drinking an Oloroso or a Fino or something like that, it's not really for me. A Pedro Hemings, oh yeah, I'll definitely drink one of those. But it's very, very rich.
I don't like Fino. They're too dry. Finos are really
and
dry.
You don't like any
Pedro Hemings it's all right if you can get it out of the glass.
Yeah.
It's
like honey. It's like honey.
It's really thick. It's really syrupy. And
I love it.
I love it. It's quite like port. It's getting to that level of sweetness that's sitting in that sherry. Very, very heavy, very rich. That's why with this we had to be very gentle with the amount of time we gave it. Because as I was saying, earlier on when we were talking about the finishes on the Glenrothes, if you take it just one bit too far, you would lose everything that was Balblair. And I love what is Balblair, so I wanted it left in there. But what I wanted to do is just give it a kiss of, so there's somebody looking for the Muscatel. Again, Herr Gradl will have that.
Link down below to the shop.
So you'll find it there. Michael will love us for this tasting, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I hope he's watching, actually.
I certainly hope so. Michael, if you're out there, come on and say hello to folk. It would be lovely to hear from you.
He's not technically. I think
his wife is doing all.
His wife is doing all. Yeah, like everybody.
Andrea knows her stuff. She'll keep him right. She'll keep him right. But yeah, so this is a subtle finish. Just enough that we're getting that fruitiness starting to come into the whiskey. It's still quite pale for a colour. Now, normally with a Pedro Hemings, the colour you're expecting is more like this. That's kind of classic full-bodied sherry. I didn't want that with this one. We could have achieved that with this, but we'd have had to have left it for 9 months to a year to get that kind of finish. What I wanted was just to put enough fruitiness into it that it would go really well with that kind of sweet nut brittle note that sits in Balblair. Again, we're back to these kind of stewed dessert pears. We've got that really sweet fruitiness in there. A little bit of green tea. I always find a hint of green tea in Balblair. And funnily enough, I love it in Balblair, but I hate green tea. In fact, I'm not a big tea fan in any way, shape or form, but it works really well in this one. And there's just a hint of ginger. The spice for me is gingery. And when you get that, it works really well with these heavy sherry notes. wee bit of kind of stewed sultana in there and stuff, but it's subtle, it's gentle. And it's very difficult to get these sherry notes into something and still keep the spirit gentle. But
on the nose, it's good. It's not like full of dark chocolate and
It's
what.
not,
Not a sherry bomb. It's good. Yeah, that's
not at all. It's subtle, and I think that is something that we don't do well in the industry. When we start playing with sherry, it's all sherry bombs. It's all this huge amount of sherry thrown at something. You forget that a very subtle flavour of sherry coming into play can be a wonderful thing. We don't have to overcook it all the time. Much as I like a good sherry bomb, and I've got to be in the mood for it. I've got to be in the mood for it. But you can bring the best of sherry to a whiskey without drowning it in sherry. And that's what we've got with this one. Subtlety is an important thing. And it's the only thing that in life I'm subtle about is my whiskey. Everything else is crash, bash, wallop. But yeah, I can be subtle when it comes to finishing my whiskies. So the one thing I love on this, on the palate, is this little bit of, it's like a muscovado sugar note coming through on it. Get that kind of crunchy brown sugar coming into play. Milk chocolate, yeah. I've had a lot of people say that's a good call, Jürgen. And definitely the raisin in the background, yep. I think a lot of people have been actually surprised with that, the fact that it is as light as it is.
yeah, it is.
And that's another thing we could have done. I know a heck of a lot of independent bottlers who, with something like this, because it says PX on the bottle, they would have hammered E150 caramel colouring into the bottle to give it this really dark colour. It's not for me. I don't want to do it. If it's pale, it stays pale, but it's a good whiskey.
So, sláinte.
Sludgeva.
Sláinte.
Oh yeah, raisins. Big raisins.
Yeah. But you wouldn't think that in the nose, John.
No, but on the palate, bomb. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're really getting that rich sherry note coming through, but it's not overpowering.
No.
It's like in between raisins and grapes, It's not like it tastes like not finished raisins, It's like in between a little bit because you have the fruity. It's not too heavy, like you're saying.
Yeah. It's quite a unique whiskey, this one. I'm happy with it. I'm really happy with it.
I like this light finishing that you're doing. You're pouring it in there and pouring it out 10 minutes later.
Yeah, pretty much. It's difficult for us as a young independent bottler when there are so many other independent bottlers established out there. People say, well, what makes you different from them? I said, well, for a start, you've got me. But on a serious note, we've got to say, well, what can we do different to everyone else? Everyone else at the moment is creating whiskies which are nearly black. They're overly flavoured. So if you're doing it in bourbon, it's overly bourboned. If you're doing it in wine, it's overly wined. Sherries are overly sherried. People have lost the ability to be subtle about things. And whiskey is a delicate, subtle spirit. And if you handle it that way, it gives you so much more back than trying to batter some kind of flavour and colour into it. Be kind to it, finesse it. And if you do that, it will be kind back to you. That's the hope. Doesn't always work.
It's really nice. I don't want to try it with water because I love it the way it is.
No, that's good.
So.
Again, I prefer it. I prefer all my whiskies without water, in all honesty. And yeah, you're back up. You're at 56.5% alcohol with this one. So for those of you who aren't used to cask strength whiskies, you might need to have a lie down in a darkened room after this tasting. I was saying the other day, we were doing a tasting for whiskey clubs in Belgium, and it was 7 casks, single cask strength whiskies. And I did, for once, I said to the guys, you know what, maybe it's not a bad thing that we've got to do this over video links and stuff from our own homes. because after 7 cask strength whiskies, I can crawl from here to my bed, no problem. So it does have its plus points. Of that, I'm sure. Dark red flutes, plums. Yeah, herbal tea. I get that tea note as well, and definitely ginger. I always get ginger out of this one. So yeah, people are kind of on the same wavelength as me, which doesn't happen very often. So I'm quite happy about that.
But the honey notes are still there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The sweetness is very honeyed.
Yeah.
Definitely is. Quite interesting distillery, actually. It was designed by Charles Doig. So for those of you who know your whiskies, you'll have heard maybe of such a thing as a Doig ventilator. So that's the kind of pagoda chimneys that you'll see on the distilleries in Scotland. That was put above the malting floors to make sure that water couldn't get in to soak the barley, but all the smoke or steam could get back out again. But very, very seldom did Doig actually do whole distilleries that are still in existence. But Balblair's one of his, 1.8 million litres a year, so it's quite a big full throughput distillery. These are one of the heavier ones. I'm used to working, most of my work has been with Glengoyne, and we're only doing 800,000 litres a year. We're but a baby compared to some of them. You know, the Glenrothes, it's about 5 million a year. It's a big hitter. It really churns it out. And then you've got the new Macallan site, which is, what's that now, 17.5 million litres a year.
And why is it so expensive?
Yeah.
It's an incredible place to see. Not my favourite spirit. Some of the old Macallan, and I don't mean aged old, I mean the old style.
Yeah.
If you go back, the Macallans that were made in the 1980s, for example, were beautiful. They were stunning. I think they've kind of bent a knee a wee bit, maybe, to commercial pressures, particularly feeding the States and the Far East, where there's such, you know, the brand is the be-all and end-all. So I think they've really, Edrington Group have been pushed hard to get as much of this stuff out as they can. And when you do that, I always find there's a wee, maybe, you know, quality suffers.
It's hard.
It is hard. It's really hard for them. I think they've done their best under what are difficult circumstances, because they're screaming out for their product all over the world. But I prefer, just purely my own preference, I like these smaller throughput little distilleries that kind of float under the radar sometimes, you know, that people don't necessarily know too much about. You know, one of the next ones we're going to go into, Linkwood, certainly not a small distillery, not one that you'd see a hell of a lot of single malt whiskey. You know, and if you do, it's coming from independent bottlers.
Yes, yes.
Okay, we have to say 90% of our tastings are from independent bottlers.
We have a lot of independence.
So we don't do that many original casks, actually.
Kind of the big corporate guys. You don't do the big corporate guys.
Well, we do.
We do.
Yeah.
But sometimes they have to talk about independent bottlers as well. So we got them.
When they have time, we do things with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's one of these things that without the big boys, there would be no independent bottlers. You know, so we've got to thank them for everything that they do. And I think one thing that a few independent bottlers forget sometimes is we've got to show a huge amount of respect to the spirit that they make. I think my job as an independent bottler is to take their spirit, show it in a slightly different way that they can't do. They've all got core ranges that they've got to stick to. Every now and again, they can be a little bit creative, but not so much. We can really be very creative. But at the heart of that, you've got to be respectful to their spirit, because it could well be, say, for example, it's a Balblair. No one had ever tried a Balblair before. You pick it up, and because I've done something crazy with it, you drink it, you go, oh, that's horrible. I'm never buying Balblair again. So we've got a huge responsibility on us that when we do bring these whiskies out, they've been kind enough to allow us to use their name on our bottle. So we've got to show them a lot of respect and make sure that the whiskey that we do bring out is something that shows them in a really good light. Because if we don't, you very, very quickly fall out with people. And that's the last thing we want to do is fall out with folk. You know, we want to make as many friends as we can, not the other way around. So hopefully with the Bal Blair, we've done it proud.
You see that at the whisky fairs, you know, because we work at the whisky fairs for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. And then quite a few years ago, you know, we used to see all then the Glenmorangie people and the Ardbeg people. They come to the stand because at our stand then they could taste their single cask Ardbegs and a single cask Glenmorangies. And on their standard, they just have the normal standard range, you know.
That's right. It's lovely to be able to do that.
Yep.
We've been quite fortunate with SMWS. We only really had the headquarters through in Edinburgh to go to, which it's just too far away for us. But last year they opened up a new SMWS in Glasgow, in the city centre, so really easy for us to get to. And it has become basically, when we're not in lockdown, our Friday afternoons are SMWS. We call it research because we're looking at different spirits from different distilleries, but it's great because you get the opportunity to see all these spirits in a different light. You know, and it could well be something like, well, Talisker, for example. I love Talisker.
Yeah, great.
But the only thing I've ever really been able to do a wee bit experiment with was Portree with their Portwood, and 57 North with their cask strength. But that was really about it. So when you go and you can get different Taliskers done in different casks, you go, oh, this is magic. And it shows you what you can do. Again, I think SMWS do a great job of being very respectful to the spirit. So, you know, Talisker's got quite a striking characteristic to it. And you can identify it, like, pretty quickly. Fitz like, my man, how you doing, bud?
Yeah, we sent him
No problem. All good. All good. Well, you can catch up later. You can watch it later and get a few drams. But raise that glass for you guys.
Yeah, he had to stop drinking or he wanted to, until yesterday. So he had his first drinking, I think, yesterday. In the morning, or I don't know. So for like 6 or 8 weeks, he made a big post on Facebook. So Mark is doing a lot of online tastings for us. So we had a lot of online tastings with Mark.
I'm delighted to see that. I'm really chuffed that he's been on to say hello today. So I hope when he gets a chance to taste a few of these, they go down well for him. And no doubt
he got all the samples. Samples.
Brilliant, great. So the next time that we do get a chance to go to Germany, I'll be hearing all about it, and it better go down well or I'm in trouble. That's for sure. So, folks, we will move on.
Yeah, you were talking about society. We saw this society sign on your website, and we wanted to ask you anyway, but now you explained it a little bit. And we are, connected to society for quite some time now.
Oh, yeah, a lot of years. Yep.
And we love their whiskey. And Ralph, he's doing all the tastings. He will try your whiskies as well. So he got a package.
Brilliant.
And we had John McShaney over to do a tasting. So
nice. Yeah.
And, we had him over Christmas 2019.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before
Corona.
Before
the wheels fell off the world. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So and he was live and he was on stage. Yeah. And a couple of people had a little bit of problem to understand what he was saying.
Yeah, he's Scottish. He's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's easier to understand you than John.
I'm fortunate where over the last 7 years, all my work has been in mainland Europe, pretty much. And I've learned very quickly to temper my accent and slow down the way I speak. If you heard me speaking to Rory, you wouldn't understand a word what we're saying to each other. It just comes out like machine gun fire. Poor Victoria, she's... Oh, come on in then. Come on in. Oh, she'll come in later. All right, okay, so we're actually going to get graced with her presence later on. It's one thing that I think you've got to be really, again, it's back to respect. You know, it's bad enough that everyone out there is having to listen to this in English. You know, I've invaded your houses on Easter Sunday and I'm speaking this ridiculous language. But doing it in Gaelic wouldn't help either. So we're not going to do it that way. But when you are having to deal with, especially a lot of questions that might be quite technical, and you're answering them in someone's second language or third language, you know, you've really got to be as precise in what you say. Otherwise, it just goes straight over people's heads. It's not fair. You know, you wouldn't do that.
It's difficult.
But at the same time, for a lot of Scots, it's difficult for us to temper our accents. I'm quite fortunate where I'd get a clip round the ear when I was small if I didn't speak properly. And the fact that my family, coming from a Gaelic background, you can enunciate words and pronounce things very clearly, because my Gaelic is now horrendous. It's non-existent. My brother's is excellent. Mine isn't. But the pronunciation that you need for Gaelic words, you have to hit every letter. So you can't just slur or go into just mumble words. You've got to be really clear. But with a lot, particularly from the West Coast where we are, it can slide off into... I could break into broad Glaswegian if you want. I always remember we were doing a masterclass in Kiev. Somebody had asked me, he said, well, you know, what is, like, when you talk normally, how would you sound? I said, okay. I said, so I'm going to ask you a question. And I pointed at the bottle that was sitting in front of the guy and went, going to geese that there, mate? And he looked at me and went, sorry, what? Going to geese that there? Hurry up, eh? And he went, I said, I'm asking if you can pass me that bottle. He went, never do that again. Never do that again. Just stick to what you're doing. I'm like, okay, fair enough, no problem. With a lot of Scots, our accent is strong and it is difficult. Even when you're trying your best to temper it, it can be quite difficult for folk. And yeah, I know quite a few of the guys who struggle.
Yeah.
So, moving on.
Yes.
We're going to go into the Linkwood. And I am over the moon with this Dràm. Over the moon with it. Now, the one thing you'll find, no finish in here. Linkwood 10. Again, if I could open this, I would happily open it, but I can't. That's not one of my bottle number ones, but it's one that's already sold, so I can't drink the damn thing. With this particular Linkwood, we are sitting at 55%, so it's one of the more gentle ones. Linkwood Distillery for a Speyside is, as I've mentioned, not one that you tend to see a range of whiskies from. Linkwood was Diageo's powerhouse of Speyside for their blends, mainly. Now, this was very much a whisky that was produced not to be sold as a single malt initially, but it was produced to be blended. So this was what they call a packer. So a packer is the single malts that will go in to make up that overall flavour of your blend. But for me, Linkwood is absolutely stunning. I love the flavour of Linkwood. It's just got the right weight. For me, a lot of Speysides are just a little bit too light, a little bit too gentle. Maybe don't quite have enough character or statement coming through in them. Linkwood does. Linkwood's got a great character to it. But the thing that I loved about this particular cask, it was a first fill bourbon cask. That we knew. But this is a heavily charred first fill bourbon cask. You'll almost get a hint of smokiness coming off of this Linkwood. And Linkwood has got no peat smoke anywhere near it. Now, when we char a cask, we've got 4 grades. Grade 1 is just a tiny gentle char around the surface of the cask. Grade 2, we're going a little bit more into the wood. That's the normal char that would give a cask. Grade 3 is a heavy char. And this is going to start changing the colour of the spirit as well as the flavour, because it interacts with the charcoal on the inside of the cask. Char 4, what we class in the industry as Alligator Char. And it's called Alligator Char because if you look at the inside of the cask, it's like alligator skin. Bits of the wood have actually fallen off. The charcoal's fallen off into the whiskey. And there's a huge amount of interaction with the whiskey and the charcoal. All we've done with this particular cask is filter out the charcoal. There you go, perfect. A beautiful picture of alligator char.
But it's for the newbies. It's good to see
That's
what you're
perfect.
doing.
I love that picture. So that is exactly what we had on the inside of this Linkwood cask. Now, not only is it allowing the whiskey to work really close, these are great pictures. I'm really happy with these.
Gerard, thank you.
Not only is the whiskey and the charcoal working together, but by using an alligator char, we're actually creating a much broader surface contact area of the wood. If it was just smooth, you're only getting the surface. When you pit it like this, you're getting a much broader surface to interact with the spirit. Now, this being a first fill bourbon cask, you're going to have a lot of natural sugars soaked into that oak. When you heavily char it like that, what you're actually doing is caramelizing these sugars. And you're drawing from the cask, the flavour that the spirit draws out of the cask. You're going to be picking up some of these really deep, rich caramel toffee, but slightly dark notes coming into play. You know, for me, I always, funnily enough, on the nose, I always get a kind of mild tobacco note coming off this one. It reminds me of my grandfather when he was cleaning his pipe and loading his pipe up before he would start smoking his pipe. I loved that smell. I adored it. And the first time we got samples of this, that was the first thing it put in my mind was my grandfather with his pipe. It's just very subtle tobacco smoke. It's fruity, it's sweet, it's fresh. It's got a little bit of that, not quite that fresh cut grass what we're talking about, but almost like dry hay notes. And you've got a little bit of sultana, even though there is no red oak anywhere near this. On the palate, it's surprising. It's quite musky. You've got dark demerara sugar notes. You've actually got a slight sherry hint coming through in this. But there is no sherry here. This is a first fill bourbon cask. So it shows you the impact that heavy char has had on the spirit. It's got a really nice, sweet, nutty note to it. I get kind of stone fruits like nectarine and peach coming off it as well. But I adored this whiskey, and the feedback that we've had from this, I would say, is probably the best that we've had in anything that we've bottled. When it was released here in Scotland, we do very, very little at the moment in our home market, just because everyone I knew was in mainland Europe because of my work. So it made sense when we started was to start with the distributors I knew. But there's a few places that get our whiskey, but not many. But the shop in Glasgow, the Good Spirits Company that this went into, it was only on the shelves for a matter of hours and it was gone. It just wiped out straight away. Really very interested to hear your feedback on this one, because this is a whiskey that personally I'm really proud of.
I'm a big fan of these heavily charred whiskies. They have a real good depth to them, you know, and I really like this caramel as well. It's great. I love it in whiskey. I'm a bit scared that everybody's going to start doing it sooner or later. You know, they're all going to just get their barrels and char them. So everybody will be doing this, you know. But at the moment, I'm a big fan. It really adds a big depth to a whiskey. I find, you know, it's really good.
Really interesting nose.
Yeah, it's not what you expect.
It smells a bit like starfruit. Do you know starfruit?
No.
Yeah.
It's shaped like a star.
Mm-hmm.
The yellow green. It smells. It's like a light peppery, fruity nose. A little bit of like bitter notes.
But you've got this tobacco, no? Like you were saying, That's typical. You either get from these heavily charred barrels, you either get a light smoky nose, very light in the background, or this tobacco smell, like you say, you know. Yeah.
So I have
Tobacco and a bit of leather or something like this.
Yeah. It's quite opulent.
Yep.
Feel comes from this. You know, it's these very kind of plush, rich Chesterfield leather settees, and you know, it's all that kind of, how would you put it, really rich wood polish, that kind of thing.
Yep.
You know, which, don't get me wrong, would I drink and lick leather? Nah, maybe not. But it just has this very affluent note to it, very rich. But deep.
The expression there, "There's guile," that's like this kicks ass or something like that, you know. I'd say
it's awesome.
it's awesome. Yeah.
And Holger praise.
Exactly what I want to hear. and for me, you know, everyone that I've given this to, I've always kind of sat back with a bit of trepidation, because this one is my favourite of everything that we've done so far. And you just sit back and you go, please love this as much as I do, please.
Yeah, there's the big caramel. You get it straight away.
Yeah, yeah.
See?
You're talking. Good man, Donald.
Oh, yeah.
Chocolate banana, yeah.
The jelly ones, do you know them?
Yeah. We call them foamies. But I know exactly what you mean. It's great notes. I'm really happy with some of the notes that the guys have put forward today. It's very encouraging for us. It is complex. I absolutely agree with her. This isn't a simple, straightforward whiskey.
That's a great drop.
Yeah, I'm really happy with that.
The nose on my side, starfruit.
Starfruit.
It really starfruit is like, it's like citrus, sweet, bitter, and all together in one fruit. If you smell that, so I think we have to try that again. So very complex. Oh, that's one you play with.
Yeah, very much so. That this is one that I took a few bottles out for myself for this one.
Yeah.
This is one that I would quite happily sit 20 minutes just on the nose. You know, I could sit and nose that whiskey all night, and then when you do finally take that first sip, you go, magic. Brilliant. A few late nights on this one, folks, that's for sure.
Yeah, this is the one you keep at home for your good friends. No?
That's exactly it. Yeah, but unfortunately, nobody can come and visit me just now, so I've just got to drink it myself.
It's not going to go bad in a bottle, don't worry.
Do you know?
Not in this house, it won't, John, that's for sure.
Do you know what muesli is? I think that's
muesli.
It's the same
same.
word. I didn't know that. Okay, good to know. Yeah, with dried raisins. Yeah.
Salty peanuts. I didn't get that before. I'd love to have a glass of it so that I could actually taste it and go through the notes that you had.
I think with the second one, I had some saltiness.
It's a nice drop. That's great. It's really good.
Yeah. I'm happy with this one. It is something, and I know you're quite right in saying what you're saying, John, where you don't want everybody jumping on the bandwagon and now charring everything to death. But it is something that I will definitely revisit as a heavily charred cask. The secret is it has to be a very good quality cask. And for me, it should be a first fill. You shouldn't be heavily charring or like a de-char, re-char or anything like this. It's got to be first fill. And very few people will heavily char a first fill cask because it's such a good cask anyway. Why ruin it? And the thing is, once you do heavily char that cask, you can only use it once. You're getting nothing out of it second time. You can use it, it's gone. It's gone.
Right.
So if you were to do that, that's probably one of the reasons where you find the heavy chars are all bourbon. You're not really going to get sherries that are heavy chars because a sherry, well, a bourbon cask for me to buy will cost me £120. So that's what, 138, 140 euros, something like that.
Yep.
And yet, if I'm buying sherry wood, it'll cost me over £1,000 to buy good sherry wood. And that's before transporting it over to here. And then you heavily char it? No, it is too much. It's too much. With the bourbon casks, you don't mind sacrificing that really good cask to a heavy char. And into the bargain, for me, the beauty of that heavy char is that caramel that John was getting. That sip. You're not going to get that with any other cask. You need white oak. You need that ex-bourbon for that. So, yeah, definitely. I totally agree with this comment. You know, the tobacco really stands up a bit with water in this one. Again, I like it without. But I'll be honest, if someone was to walk in the room just now and say, here you go, Kenny, there's a Linkwood 10. I'll warn you, there's a wee bit of water in it. Yeah, I'd still take it. I'd be quite happy, that's for sure. But it certainly looks like it's going down well, and I'm delighted to see that. It's one of these ones that you find you just want to keep picking it up. You just want to keep revisiting it. Because it is so complex, because every time you take that nose or that sip, something else, there's a wee light bulb moment, and you go, oh, wait a minute, I didn't get that before. And, you know, depending on your mood, depending on the time of day, the weather, you know, are you wide awake? Are you tired? It's going to change this whiskey dramatically, because there's so many layers of flavour in there that you can pick up on. It's a joy, it really is.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really easy to drink. Yeah.
Katerina, you said that like you were shocked.
No, it's really good.
No, it's like
really, it is good. Yeah, I know it is.
it's so different. It's so different that it's not like you can get it in the first impression. You really have to wait a little bit, and then it's getting better and better.
Yeah,
we had a little talk yesterday about these American barrels, you know, that the Americans send over because they can only use them once. And I think Gerald was saying they're going to change. They're thinking about changing the law so that they can use them not just once.
Yeah. They've been talking about this now for about 5 years.
Ah, okay.
The big problem is the unions that work on the lumberjack unions, because it's going to really damage a lot of their work, because their work is predominantly for the bourbon industry. What have I got? Thank you very much, Whiskey Bar.
Like whiskey, like teddy bear, you know.
Yeah.
Bear, yeah.
That funny A is a air. No?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've never seen a teddy bear with a whiskey before, but yeah, every day's a school day. Yeah, they have been talking about this for a long time, and I've got a gut feeling eventually it will happen. If nothing else, from an environmental perspective, the fact that, you know, they're felling so many trees to constantly feed fresh oak to the bourbon industry, you could see very much an environmental argument winning through to say, no, we've got to reuse these. And obviously that in turn is going to have an effect on us. We'll still get the casks, but the price is going to go scooting up. At the moment, we're fortunate because as soon as they've used it, there's nothing they can do with it. That's it, it's done. And we get fantastic casks from the States coming over as whole casks, not broken down. So you're still getting, by the time they arrive over here, you will have, I don't know, about a litre of bourbon sloshing about in the bottom of it. They always leave a little bit in as transportation liquid anyway to keep the cask wet. But as it's getting transported, the oak starts to give out some of the bourbon that's in there. So when we get them, you know, one of the things, I'll phone Speyside Cooperage up north and say, right, what have you got, Malcolm? What's there? I've got Buffalo Trace, I've got Maker's Mark, I've got Jack Daniels, I've got Blanton's, I've got, what are you wanting? Right, okay, let's have a look at Buffalo Trace. When was it tipped? and they can tell me exactly the date that cask was emptied.
Cool.
She said, it was only tipped 3.5 weeks ago. Yes, I'll have that. I'll take it. So you know you're getting top quality oak. And up there, if I ask them to deep char that for me, they'll deep char that for me before sending it down.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we're very, very fortunate here where we've got all the tools in place to be able to do whatever we want to do. It's just having a little bit of knowledge and, you know, believing in yourself to take the risk and go, yeah, sod it, let's do this. And that's the kind of end result you get. So I'm really, really chuffed with that one. And I'm delighted to see that, you know, some of these notes that are coming through are so positive. Work directly with some cooperages in the US and dedicate. No, we don't. It's a really good question for Whiskey Aficionado. What we have over here is
from the Scotchmore Whiskey Society. I just want to tell you that
he's called Ralph.
for us is Ralph.
right, Ralph.
Ralph, yeah.
It's our brand ambassador from the SMWS.
Actually, I had a wonderful night in Munich. I was taken to a restaurant. I was working for Glengoyne last year before everything went horribly wrong. I remember because I spent 2 wonderful days in Munich airport because of storms. I couldn't get out. But I was working for the company was Borco with Michael Rennis, and Michael loves his wines. And he said, listen, what are you doing tonight? I said, no, I've not got any plans. Right, I'm meeting some friends for a meal. Would you like to come along? I went, yeah, I'd love to. That's really kind of you. Okay. So he came, met me at the hotel, and he handed me a bottle of vintage champagne. I went, what's this? He went, that's your ticket into the meal. I'm like, I'm not with you. He went, all the guys we're meeting are basically, they all represent different champagne houses. And they're going to be doing a vintage champagne tasting during the meal. Okay, I can do that. The chef was wonderful. He came over, spent a lot of time with us, and then discovered what I did for a living. And he is one of the main SMWS hubs in Munich.
Oh, okay.
So the whiskey just came. What was that, Katarina?
I think we know him, yeah. Really,
really nice guy. Beautiful wee restaurant. It was in the corner of a street somewhere. I loved it, absolutely loved it. I have no recollection of leaving that restaurant at all. I remember going in, I do not remember coming out, because every bottle that you could think of, oh, try this, oh, try this, oh, try this.
Yeah.
A good night was had by all, that was for sure. So, folks, shall we move on to the last one of the evening?
So, yeah, we know him. We met him on the fair as well.
Yeah, that rings a bell, actually. Actually, I'll have to have a wee look. I've got photographs from that night.
You sure?
Yeah, it's the only way that I knew it was actually there, to be honest, John.
So while you're looking at us, all the others, so what do you think of the fourth one? We said a lot of what we think about the fourth one. Just send us your notes, your tasting notes, and if you think you like this one more than the other before, or whatever your thoughts are. And normally after the fourth whiskey, we have a little commercial break. But we just, I think, because we have an English audience tonight, I think we only advertise one tasting, or no?
Yeah, 2 maybe. We can advertise the tasting with Mark
Westmoreland.
Westmoreland.
Yes, he's doing he's going to come and do a tasting for us from the Wolfburn Distillery. He's also Scottish. His accent is a little bit clearer than yours, I must be honest. He's
trying really hard.
Oh, he's trying really hard. Yeah.
He is trying really hard, yes.
He seemed like a very nice guy, but he's coming up in 2 weeks on Friday, 16th, I think it is.
Yes.
Friday the 16th. So that'll be another English tasting. And then we'll be doing a port tasting.
Scottish.
Sorry?
Another Scottish tasting.
It's a Scottish, yeah. We'll be doing a port tasting in the beginning of May. So I'll be doing a port tasting myself, and we'll be doing it directly with the Bullis winery or company. Actually, they have 2 wineries.
Quinta.
What are 2 quintas? Yeah. And we'll be doing it directly with the 2 ladies from the 2 ladies from Bullis. We're going to present a 20-year-old a white port, and then we'll be presenting a 20-year-old dry white port, a 10-year-old tawny, a 30-year-old tawny, the 2016 late bottle vintage, and the 2016 vintage. And these people, they win one award after another. They're like a relatively small company, but they just keep knocking out excellent ports. It's all got to do with the aspect of where they sit in the Douro Valley, and the right amount of sun and the right amount of old grapes and new grapes, and they've got it right down. They're really cool.
They're really
Very
helpful, really friendly, and they're not native speakers. That's for all the Germans out there who are non-native speakers. So it's really easy to understand.
It'll be easier to understand.
It's really easy to understand. So yeah, that's.
But we're having trouble with customs. Yeah. So we're working on that angle. It's not easy.
So I'm working on
because the
that
first,
angle.
she's working on, because I can't understand that German. It's just way over my head.
Everything we're doing at the moment, we're having trouble with customs.
Yeah, I believe it. You're in the shit.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The stupidity of people to want Brexit, I will never understand. We had a consignment of whiskey that left here going to Belgium just over 7 weeks ago. Now, to get to Belgium, our whiskey normally takes, it's about 2 days from here to the shelf in Belgium. And Jürgen Vromans, who's our distributor out there, he just managed to pick the whiskey up on Friday. So it's 7 weeks. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. It's just making everybody's life more difficult. Why the hell they've done it, I don't know. Don't know. Just got to wait for Scotland to become independent so we can come back to you guys.
There you go.
Yeah, this time do it right. Convince all the people to sign it.
Well, we were close, lad. The last time you should have seen the propaganda machine from London.
Yeah, I saw that.
And every lie that has been told has now been debunked, so they can't use them again. They've spent the last 2 months trying to attack our First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, and it's failed hugely. And in fact, her popularity has grown since they've done that. So yeah, this time we'll get it right this time.
But like we always say, so in a pub, so and we have pub tastings online, politics and religion, we're not talking.
We don't talk about politics. No, because
that's a very, very good point.
So, in a pub,
the gentleman in Munich, it's not a particularly good picture, but that's my friend from Munich, the chef who got me. Lovely, lovely man. Great lad. And I will happily go back and spend many more nights in his establishment in Munich. But I did, because of bad weather. It was funny, when we were in Munich, the weather was beautiful. And we knew there were really bad storms back here. And we were sending pictures of us out in the sun and just bad people. And it came back to bite us in the ass big time. And the thing, I'd literally just handed my suitcase over when the boards went delayed, cancel. Okay, went into my wallet and realised that I'd left my bank card and my sporran when I packed my kilt away, which is now in the suitcase. I'm like, So yeah, I had a really nice 2 days sitting on the floor in Munich Airport, but I will take that any day over being stuck not travelling. I'm desperate to get travelling again. Anyway, folks, we will move on to our last of the night, and it is the baby of the night. And it's a Barton, 5 years old, but a child. Now, there's not many independent bottlers release a 5-year-old whiskey, but I'll be honest, when we went to collect samples, I'd drawn a sample of this to have a look at, to see where we were with it, how long we would have to leave it. It's a first fill Oloroso sherry hogshead. And there was really no intention at all of bottling this. It was just to have a look to see how far down its journey it was. And I looked into the bag, and we're very used to looking into a sea of this. I mean, that particular one is a 2030. That's 8 years old. No colour at all. I looked into this bag of samples that I had, and this one sample was screaming out at me. I thought, what the hell is that? And I just shook my head. I'm like, cannot be. This is the 5-year-old Tullabarton. So sitting in the car park, I opened the bottle, had a wee nose, and I just laughed. I thought, this is wonderful. I'll have a wee sip. Well, that's getting bottled right now. So this is very much, you know, what we've been talking about with the classic sherry bomb. Oh, at last, a good picture of me. Everything about this sherry bomb. This is Christmas in a glass for me. It's got the colour you expect. That's all natural colouring. Really heavy dried raisins, juicy sultanas, orange peel. It's almost got this kind of marzipan-y Stalin cake type thing going on in there. On the palate, you've got espresso coffee notes, you've got dark chocolate, you've got nuttiness, you've got that muscovado sugar, manuka honey, orange. It's brilliant. That's me with my toys. Always good to sit with your toys now and again. Do you know the sad thing is, I think I'm actually talking to them. That means I've probably lost the plot. This is a picture of me in action, sitting on my fat backside talking to Cask.
And why do you have the orange vest on?
Oh, the forklifts in the warehouse that bomb around are terrifying. So you get big lorries and stuff like that. That was in Angus Dundee. This particular picture is about 10 minutes walk from the house. That's Dumbarton Rock in the background, which the castle sits on. It's a really kind of iconic volcanic plug that sits on the Clyde. And the river that is behind me is the River Leven going out into the Clyde. And that's one of the only kind of last vestments of the old shipyard that used to sit there, that big bollard. So my father even worked in that shipyard in Denny's. So I like to go down and do my tastings there. It's quite a special place for me.
Is that close to there?
Yeah, I'm only 10 minutes walk from there.
I mean, close to that picture.
That's Loch Lomond, no?
Loch Lomond that's about 10 minutes drive from here. That's Loch Lomond. Loch Lomond is by far the biggest freshwater lake that we've got. Obviously, we call them lochs. It's 26.5 miles long. It's got over 100 islands. It's just idyllic. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Especially this time of year because it's not overly touristy. This particular picture is taken in a tiny town wee village called Luss. And Luss is very much a heritage village. It's the wee cottages from centuries back. In the churchyard, there's Viking graves in the churchyard and stuff like this. Loch Lomond, back in the day, was very, very heavily raided by Vikings. They would sail up a sea loch, which is Loch Long, get to the town of Tarbet and pull the boats across the land to put them into Loch Lomond, raid all around Loch Lomond and then away again. So the Viking graves that sit in Luss are quite something. Beautiful little village, but in the summer, insane. You just cannot move for people. So at this time of year, it's perfect. I love it.
So it's really nice. So you have it looks like holiday, really.
Yeah, well, we're really fortunate because we've got all of this on our doorstep. Where Dumbarton sits, we're really kind of the gateway to the Highlands. You know, once you pass us on the main road, that's you going up into the Highlands. So we've got the best of both worlds. We're only 25 minutes away from Glasgow, and we're only 10-15 minutes away from Paradise. So we're very fortunate.
So, and what about your logo?
Our logo, so the logo, the mountain.
So I think it's the mountain, but from the wrong side, or not? I think.
Yeah, it is actually the classic view of Ben Lomond from the Loch is what we've got here. It's an old volcano, and actually it looks like an old volcano. It's got these kind of steep slopes and then this flat top. But if you go around the other side, I've climbed this a few times when I was younger, and it's quite an easy, it's a walk, it's not a climb. Stunning view from the top if you get a good day. But it's quite an easy walk up that mountain. If you go from the other side, that's for proper mountaineers. And the other side of Ben Lomond is what we have on the label here. That's pretty much what it looks like. This was painted for us by a really good friend of ours, a young Lithuanian artist called Iveta Schmidt, who has done a lot of work for us. And everything that we've asked of her, she's given us, and then some more. So I know it's a little bit kind of strange to look at it and you think, what the hell is that meant to be? But that's very much what it is. That's Ben Lomond from the wrong side, from a place called Callander. If you were looking at it from Callander, you would see all these really rocky crags. Yeah, it's something that's become very precious to me. I'm proud of what we've done in a short period of time. We've got a long way to go. By no means are we the finished article. We're still learning all the time. We have got a few issues that we've got to sort out. There's been an ongoing issue with Morrison's distillers who own the brand Cairnmore, who are not good friends with us at all, to the extent they're trying to kill our name off. But that will go to tribunal in a few months and we will win that. I'm quite happy with that. So it's not all been plain sailing. There have been a few bumps along the road. We have made every mistake in the book, and we have made some mistakes that weren't even in the book. But it's the only way you learn. And we'll just hopefully keep going the way we're going. We're looking to bring out a blended malt, hopefully this summer, which will be very much for kind of on-trade. It's for mixing, it's for fun. And it will have a slightly different brand to it. We're still waiting on verification that we've got the brand sorted, so I can't say too much on that just now. But as soon as we get it, I'm very much looking forward to seeing it in bars round about Nuremberg, folks. So we will talk.
Would be great to have you here to present your new experiment.
Do you know what? It's very much. I'm very grateful that we've got these platforms that we can still keep working and we can still keep talking to people. But it's nothing on actually getting to sit with people and share, because whiskey's about sharing. Whiskey for me is about togetherness, and it's bringing people from different backgrounds, different nationalities, religions, whatever it may be. I don't care. We're all together, and you know that for me is something special, and that is the thing I miss most about the last year, is not being able to do this kind of thing in person. The minute I get a chance to do this in person, I'll be heading your way. That is a promise. And
yeah, whiskey's an atmosphere thing, you know. It's
of course it is. Of course it is.
I was traveling in France, and I was talking to this guy who spoke perfect English, but he was a French guy, had his own vineyards and all that sort of stuff. And he was telling me, John, it's all about, you know, there's taste, there's atmosphere, there's this and that, there's all these things that come together, you know.
Yeah.
To make difference. A lot of the time when we have a whiskey tasting and we have a bottle left over, we have so much in the bottle, then we'll auction it. So we auction what's left over to the people, and then they'll come to you and they'll say, well, it tasted better at the whiskey tasting in the pub than it did at home. It's like the people that buy their wines in Italian, and then they drive back to Germany over the Alps, and they all get this idea, oh, I've driven over the Alps, and that's the reason why the wine doesn't taste so good anymore, or because of the pressure difference, or this or that. No, it's all about atmosphere. It's true.
Of course it is. Whiskey for me is a drink to share. And there's nothing better than that noise we talked about earlier. That
this one's not bad too. Wait a minute.
And that's also a good one. And for me, if you've got the right company, you take that and throw it away, because you'll never use it again. Just get it right. Do you want another one? Why not? And away you go again. And has been so badly missed. But there's light at the end of the tunnel somewhere. And I would love to come out. It'd be an absolute honour to come out and do some stuff with you guys over there. It's an area I love. I love Nuremberg. I've been very fortunate where I've got good friends with Bernard and Nicole, showing me around the place.
So the one that don't know the two names, or not the short names, so it's Bernd Schäfer and Nicole. I forgot her last name. I'm very sorry, but she owns the Carter Moor in Nuremberg. And Bernd Schäfer, I don't have to explain who he is.
No, he's the Mr. Whiskey critic here in Germany.
Everybody knows Bernard.
So they have their monthly meeting tonight. Otherwise, they would have joined us as well.
We offered them drams.
And so Nicole is one of the reasons why I got to know you in the tasting, in the online tastings, and so a big thank you to Nicole, actually, and you're doing that for us.
No, she's been a joy. Nicole's been over here. She stayed with us a few times, and we did kind of put the cat among the pigeons a little bit. We caused a little bit of trouble because we made Nicole a life member of the Moor Whisky Club, the whisky club that we run in Glasgow. And then we signed a twinning agreement with the Highland Circle. And the part of the twinning agreement was that any member of ours can go into their tastings. That didn't go down too well because they're quite old school. So there was a little bit of kind of negotiation needed to be done, and smoothing over the bumps, but we got there. But I've been lucky enough for Highland Circle to invite me to come in and do a tasting for them in the clubhouse, which was wonderful. I really enjoyed it, and I'd be more than happy to go back and see the boys in there as well. So certainly Nuremberg is one very much on the top of my to-do list when the world starts opening again. I've got a few places, but you guys are there.
So here, Heather has a special request for you. We want you to come and do a live tasting in Greece, preferably on a yacht, please. So preferably on our yacht, please. So
we did a tasting last year from the yacht. We did a rum tasting last year.
Yeah.
Let me think about that, Heather. Yes, I'll do it.
So you have a lot of just for the smell, just for the nosing notes.
It's a sherry bomb.
You have a lot of comments here. You had a lot of comments here.
This is a classic sherry bomb. There is no two ways about it. It's unashamedly a sherry bomb. But for me, you could put this Dràm down with some of the older Glendronachs, some of the older Glengoynes. You would never be able to pick this out as only being 5 years old. I think it's a remarkable whiskey for its age. I really do. Tullabarton's a distillery that for me does not get anywhere near the credit it deserves. They're very wine-led. Being owned by Picard Wine and Spirits, the French are very much concentrated on wine finishes with Tullabarton. But it's a really, really good spirit. And the beauty with this, and one of the things that I like a sherry bomb, but now and again, they're too heavy. This has got all the elements of that big sherry bomb, but it's still actually a very gentle, light whiskey. The body of it is not heavy. You know, even if you look at the tears on it, it's not super glued to the glass. It's still quite a gentle, light whiskey.
It is.
But
still, for life, it's still got a lot of the sherry, you know?
Oh, a huge amount. Huge
Yeah,
amount.
So we have some notes. A big sherry explosion, hazelnut, dark chocolate, Jägermeister. Do you know what Jägermeister is?
Everybody knows what Jägermeister is.
Everybody knows what Jägermeister is.
Okay. So I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, sure,
I
it's
thought
all right.
that's quite German. So
No, the Americans drink it. Like
okay.
water. Yep.
Okay, herbal liquor, milk, chocolate, and wood notes in the finish. Great show. That's not bad, is it?
There you go.
Thank you so much.
So rich sherry notes with ripe grapes, raisins, bit leather polish, very full mouth-filling towards the end. Coffee and almost a bit fleshy. That's interesting. With a bit of pepper or lasting chilling cold coffee. Cold coffee. I think.
Well,
that's
Jürgen's
really
got
good.
a nose. He's one of these
Yeah.
people.
He's told the nose. Actually.
Yeah,
And
he
he's
picks
told the
things
nose.
out of the
Sorry.
glass like he's
Yeah.
It's insane.
I really envy people like that. I really do. I'm fortunate to call Jim McEwen and Isla a really good friend. And one of the things that we tend to do when we're looking at re-racks and things like this, I've got a pretty good idea where I want to go with things, but I'll always ping a sample across to Jim and say, what do you think? And he goes, I would do this, I would do that. Right, okay. And we work it out together. So I've got a good mentor in Jim, but Jim loves to write tasting notes. And that some of the terms he can just grab out the air. I'm like, it's what?
Yeah.
I don't get it. I get the basics. I get the basic flavors, but I am so in awe of people who can really read deeply into the whiskey. I would love to be able to do that, to be a bit more proficient than I am with that. Sadly, I'm just stuck where I am.
Really great whiskey in only 5 years. That's what you were talking about earlier. So that doesn't. Sometimes it really doesn't matter. We had because in the week of St. Patrick's Day, we always have Irish tasting. We had an Irish tasting week, and we had a whiskey that was only 3.5 years old.
Yeah, in a heavily charred.
In a heavily charred.
Yeah.
And we all thought before it's 3.5 years old, you know. But it was the best whiskey of the night.
Yeah, it was excellent. Yeah. It was a single grain too. It was a single grain in a heavily charred.
Yeah, it was just.
And it was amazing. Really. Yeah.
Yeah.
I must admit, I'm a big fan of single grains.
Good ones are great. Yep.
I really like them. We're going to be releasing a single grain Dumbarton from the old distillery. That you actually saw the distillery in the little video right at the very beginning. So it was demolished. It's been gone for a good while now. And to be able to get our hands on some of the single grain Dumbarton stock, we've got 3 casks at the moment. We might be able to get some more. And what we'll do, the one that's coming out in spring is a 20-year-old. It's just sweet as honey. It's just classic single grain, beautiful, aged. And what we'll do is we'll drip feed them year by year. So we'll keep them. And I want to try and get more. So every year I can just drop in a Dumbarton. It's important to us because it's where we're from. But I love people's faces if they've not tried single grain whiskey before. There's a bit of snobbery in the whiskey industry still where, it's only grain. Yeah, but try it. It's wonderful stuff. Okay, it doesn't come out of that beautiful big copper pot still, but just try it. It's wonderful. So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that, the single grain was so well received, especially, with the Irish triple distilling things. I like single grain from Ireland. I'm not a big fan of their single malt whiskies. Redbreast. I really like Redbreast.
Redbreast is great. Yeah. We sell a lot of that in the pubs.
Yeah, Redbreast is great. Some of the Some of the peeling stuff just now is interesting as well. I tried one that was a chestnut, horse chestnut.
That was from the Teeling distillery, or the not the Teeling, or the sister distillery. Can you say that? It belongs to the same company. So, and the woman that was presenting the whiskies is Marijke Spitzer from Irish Whiskey. So she's one of the biggest importers.
Importer, yeah.
Of Irish
Importer,
whiskey,
yeah.
importer of Irish whiskies in Germany, and she's really into it. So, and that was her special bottling. So it's nothing that you can just buy. So it was a really, really special thing. So and we have a question about a rumor. Uwe asked, I heard a distillery should be built in Luss. Do I say that right?
Yeah. Funnily enough, it was a project I was working on. I know the people who originally started looking into the plans. They did the business plan. The main kind of protagonist is a man called Gareth Roberts, who is an architect, but he designs distilleries. So he designed. Hey, Bernard, how are we? He designed the New Lindors Abbey, for example. That was his. He's worked on 30 different projects for distilleries throughout the world. And he got a team together and he brought me on board to give them a little bit of kind of technical advice from the distribution and sales side of thing. Now, at the time, the area around Luss is all owned by Kahuna Estates. So we've still got a lot of land in Scotland which belongs to different clans. That area used to belong to the MacGregors. The Gregor owned that land. But after the failure of the 1745 rebellion, it was stripped from them and given to the Cahoons. The Cahoons fought for the British against us. The Cahoon Estates are notoriously difficult people to work with. And the land where they were going to build the distillery in Luss belongs to Cahoon Estates. I warned the boys at the time, look, be very careful, because what will happen is they will take the business plan, they will look at it all, and as soon as they know what to do, they'll get rid of all of you and they'll do it themselves. And that's exactly what's happened. So the plan is in place to do something in Luss. If Cahoon Estates are involved in it, it will be done in a cack-handed way, probably. There's been no progress for the last 3 years. So that it should already be built. It should be producing spirit already. Fortunately, we've now kind of changed track and are looking at a distillery in Shetland, the very furthest north of all our islands.
You know that because we know
Shetland Reel.
Shetland Reel.
Yeah, Shetland Reel's great, man. Lovely
Great
stuff.
Yeah, really great. Excellent.
This will be out at the Brassy Lighthouse, and we are way down the line on planning for that one. It's not mine, but I'm just an advisor on it. But there's going to be a big hotel beside it as well. And Marriott have already won the bidding war over the hotel. So that one's really far down the line. We've got still, for the last 4 or 5 years, we've had about 10 new distilleries every year just pop up.
Wow, yeah.
And it doesn't look like slowing down. The boom in whiskey interest is not slowing down in any way, shape, or form.
Thank God.
Long may it continue. I don't want it to. I really don't. But it does kind of worry me a little bit, where when I first started working in the industry, we had 96 distilleries. We're on 138 at the moment and growing massively. There's going to be...
You're just talking about distilleries in Scotland.
Yeah.
So, that the Irish is a growing market as well.
Irish are going bananas too, yeah.
And you have the Japanese, of course.
Yeah, well, the Japanese is a bone of contention. I was really grateful to see the news that came out from Japan about a couple of months ago, where they were really starting to try to regulate it. And now, if you're real Japanese whiskey, there will be a part of their association badge on your bottle stating this was genuinely made in Japan. Because one of the distilleries that I love as far as the spirit goes to work with is Ben Nevis. And Ben Nevis have been killed by Nikka, absolutely killed. They take 75% of all new make spirit from Ben Nevis every year to Japan. That's what Nikka from the bottle is. It's Ben Nevis. It's not Japanese. And this is the problem where
I knew Ben Nevis was Japanese, but I didn't realise they sent all their new make to Japan. No.
That's why it's incredibly difficult to get a bottle of Ben Nevis.
So, and just to explain why you know so much about barrels, and you said that before, and how long you're working for the whiskey industry. So you can only buy bottles at Dràm Groups, then you can buy barrels too, or not?
Yes, you can.
Can you say something about that? Because I mean, we might get enough people together to buy a barrel from you.
Yeah, listen, absolutely. When we started, we had an idea, which there are a few whiskey brokers who you can invest in a cask of whiskey from, and it's done purely as investment. We had an idea that we could do it slightly differently, and what we wanted to do was bring people into what we call Dramor's Cask Clan. So what people do is they invest in a barrel of whiskey with the view that at some stage we will bottle that cask of whiskey. So they buy it at whatever price it is on the market at the moment. And when they're ready to sell it, we will buy it back from them at full market value. There are no, what we call here, mates rates. There's nothing of that. They will get the proper price for that cask. Once we bottle their cask, they'll receive a complimentary bottle from their cask. That will be on us, as well as the profit they'll make from the cask. And also on the back label, there will be, we've not done this before, it will be later this year before this happens. We will make sure that there's acknowledgement to them. So it will say, this bottle comes courtesy of Dramor Cask Clan member, whoever.
Fred Smith.
Yeah, exactly. And their name will be on bottles of whiskey that go out to general release all over the world. I think it's a lovely thing for folk who love whiskey to have that. At the end of the day, I would have loved when we started to go out and spend £500,000 on stock. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I didn't have the money to do that. But by doing this, what we've done is we've got people who've invested in stock for us. They don't have to sell it to us. At the end of the day, it's their property. It's entirely up to them. We will manage the cask for them, especially if you're not a UK resident. You need what's called a duty representative for you. So we look after the cask for them, but it doesn't cost them anything. The only thing they've got to pay is their warehousing, which is £50 a year. It's buttons. And insurance is £50 a year. They don't have to take it, but it's advisable. Every month we produce a cask list of what's available out there, send it out to all our clients. We've now got over 200 people in the clan, and they will look through. And for the vast majority of them, they don't want to buy another cask. They've got their cask, or they've got 2 or 3. Fine, but it gives them the opportunity to see the growth and value of their casks. And it means when it comes time to me saying, John, I'd really like to buy your cask back from you, you know exactly how much it's worth because you see the list every month, and I can't pull the wool over your eyes. We've also... You can't
leave the cask going on forever because sooner or later it's not going to taste any better.
No. And I think one of the things... one of the things that we've shown you today is we like to bottle quite young. There will be older whiskies to come, no two ways about it. But I don't see any problem with bottling whiskey young when it's good. So, you know, if somebody said, well, I only actually want to invest in it for about a year, yeah, that's fine, no problem. Because what we'll do is we'll sell it to another member of the Cask clan who can hang on to it until we're ready for it. Yeah. You're finding, on average, a cask of whiskey, depending on the distillery, depending on the oak, the size of the cask, they're growing in value between £750 to £1,000 a year on year, as your growth.
So it's more than the 0.5% you get at the bank.
A hell of a lot more, John.
Yeah, that's good.
To give you an example, our niece was born in Lithuania 2 years ago, and we bought her a cask of new make Ben Nevis. At the time, Colin Ross was still in charge up there. I got on really well with Colin. Did me a good price, and I got this cask. I got a lot of casks. To be honest, I got quite a few of them. And Dolmelia's cask will wait for her in the warehouse, and she'll get that when she's 21. Now, when I bought that cask, I bought it for just over £1,000. At the moment, a 21-year-old Ben Nevis will go for between 24 and 26,000.
Yeah, that's
So that's not a bad 21st birthday present for somebody to get.
Well, it's the ratio, how your money's developing. You know, like that's.
Oh, it's a no-brainer for me.
It's got to be like on your money every year.
Yeah.
So before we get too technical or too deep inside, because I saw the comments on the side, so
yes.
we will stay on, and if you have any questions, and we talk about that a little bit more, just in a second.
Absolutely.
But we're still so with the last whiskey. Normally, what we do at the end of the tasting, we have like a little ranking.
Yes, that would be good, please.
No, they do.
So we do like a little ranking. So so just 1 to 5, and you start with the best one.
It doesn't mean that the last one's bad. It just means
no.
Your favorite and your least favorites at the end.
And that's always really interesting because a couple of people already said thank you and goodbye because I think they're quite hungry because they didn't have dinner before, or they have other things to do. It's still Easter Sunday. So, and I just wanted to give you the first ranking because I think he had to quit a little bit earlier. And that was from Whiskey Bear, ranking for tonight, 4, 5. So he starts with the best.
Okay, so Linkwood, Tullabarton, and then we were on Muscatel and then red wine.
Yeah, and the third one.
And Balblair's sitting in the middle. I would take it.
Obviously, but I'm not sure what he meant with
Not
that.
quite sure yet.
So another, that was for the fifth one because we didn't talk a lot about the fifth one. The water becomes smoother but very tasty. Complexity vanishes.
With water was better. I tried a drop of water in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And another one. Thank you, Kenny, for the tasting.
You're welcome, Matthias. Absolutely welcome, sir.
And surely more to follow. The link is down below. You still get these one at Gradls Whiskyfässla.
Yes.
And I think that's more or less the last ones to get. So be quick.
Yeah.
He's getting your new bottlings as well, or?
Yes, he will be. He's actually put in a substantial order, which I'm quite happy with. So
thank you very much for that really nice tasting. And this time it was a little highlight to enjoy whiskey together. Definitely. Thank you. So I've learned a lot this evening. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to doing this again soon. So while I'm reading this, John broke his glasses. So I say that's why I'm reading this again. So he can't wait. So that's why. So.
Oh, John.
The arm fell off and it doesn't sit on the nose anymore. You know, just.
Been there.
Yeah. Tuesday, I'm back to the Optica.
So can he be singing again at the end of the tasting with a beautiful voice? He didn't have enough drinks.
No, he won't. But it's a good try. Yeah, I do have a bad.
You singing before?
I've got a bad reputation for that. And unfortunately, I get encouraged all the time to do this. The story started. My very first international whiskey tasting was in Ghent in Belgium. And the way the festivals work is normally at the end of the first day, we'll all go out for a meal with our distributors, and then you're left to your own devices, which means we all meet up in a preordained pub. So all the brand ambassadors from different companies. And in this particular occasion, I was with Ian McWilliams from Glenrothes and Shelton Almeida from Paul John. Now, everyone in the whisky industry knows both of these people, Shelton in particular, and they tend to lead people astray. Now, I was quite fortunate because Victoria was with me. So I had someone to look after me. And we spent a nice night with one of the big Belgian whisky clubs. And Victoria turns round to me about midnight and she said, look, we've got day 2 of the festival tomorrow. It's bedtime. And I kind of felt crestfallen. I was really enjoying myself. And I thought, okay. And she went, oh, no, not for you. You're the new boy. You're going to stay out and play. I'm going to bed. And I thought, am I? Okay. So she gave me 2 bits of advice. 1, 5, I like it. 1, do not come in at 6 o'clock in the morning. You're working tomorrow. I'm like, okay. And she went, 2, don't do anything stupid. But if you do, don't tell me about it. What? Oh, okay. And away she went. So time goes by. We're drinking Belgian beer, which is ridiculously strong.
Yes.
And I'm talking to Rory and Ewan, my 2 sons, on the phone about football.
That's funny because we got a comment here. 54132.
54132, not a football strike. Honestly, I'm a diehard St Mirren supporter. We have played worse formations than that. I can promise you. So I'm sitting at the table, minding my own business, talking away on the phone, and the whole table goes, ooh. And I look up, and they're all looking at me. I'm like, what? There's a wee woman in a green dress just past you, seriously checking you out, big man. And I'm like, I don't know. Okay, sure, whatever. I thought, they're at it. They're winding me up. And I went back to my phone. Ooh. What? She's just walked past you again. She's still staring at you. Right enough. Very attractive woman in a green dress looking at me. And I thought, I'm not dead yet. That's good. That's felt flattered. That's grand. So a few minutes later, a small man with a sweep-over hairdo, straight out of 1974, big tie, comes round. I'm wearing a kilt, and Ian McWilliams is wearing a kilt. He's closest to Ian, straight over to Ian. I can't hear really what's going on. All I can hear is Ian saying, no, I can't. But he can. And away the guy goes, great, and vanishes. And again, the table falls silent. I'm like, Ian, who was that wee guy? That wee guy's the husband of the girl in the green dress. Now my brain's starting to get a bit panicky. Can remember all the words, no, I can't, but he can. I've got a picture of him sitting in the corner of the room peeling an orange. I'm like, no, this is not for me. I can't do this. I said, well, what did he ask you? His wife saw someone in a kilt and she would really love that person to sing her a Scottish song. And I kind of went, oh, thank God for that. And then the realization, I went, wait a minute, and you said? I said, I can't, but you can. Bastard. So I had to stand up and stand on a table in the middle of a pub in Belgium and batter out Flower of Scotland, as it's the only song I know all the words to. And thereafter, it has kind of followed me around due to the fact that as I'm finishing my song thinking, that's me, I'm safe, I'm done, I'm in the club, I've paid my dues. I look into the darkened corner where all I can see are eyes and teeth is Mr. Shelton Almeida is hiding in the shadows, filming the whole damn thing. I'm like, oh. So yeah, that's the beginning of my singing career in the whiskey industry. Honestly, you do not want to suffer it, and if you do, you need
They follow you around. So
Yes.
I heard that before from a couple of people. I have to say.
Yeah, you need a damn sight more drink than we've had tonight for you to enjoy my singing. That is a promise.
Yeah, you didn't drink as much as we did. So, but I want to show you definitely the ranking. So I showed you the last one. It was 5.
Yeah, love it.
Andy, you were really quiet tonight, I have to say. Normally, I see more comments from Andy. Matthias, it's 5 in how do you say that? In
Brackets.
brackets,
yeah.
thank you. In brackets. So it's like what they like to do is to have 2 categories, because the one is a little bit smoky and the other one aren't. I think
For example, yeah.
that's why it's 2 categories. So that's different.
Oh, nice. Good. Okay. I'm really surprised, actually, that was a really interesting lineup there, because you had one Glenrothes at the very top and one at the very bottom. Normally, they sit pretty close together. It's lovely to see, Marcus, actually. I like to see that. You do so many tastings where...
Same with the next one.
Lovely. I love this. This is really all over the place. I really like that. Because every whiskey means something to somebody. I'm worried about number 6 here.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I was asking. So I think he had, well, number 6, definitely. We know his Whiskyfässla because we had a tasting last night together, and he was streaming from his Whiskyfässla. So he definitely had enough whiskey for number 6. So, but I already asked him what was number 6.
But it's always good when you get a big mix up.
Yeah.
That means the whiskies are good.
Yeah, I totally agree, John. I think, having run our whiskey club for, it'll be 8 years now, it can be quite disappointing when at the end of the night we'll have 30 people sitting and it's just a show of hands. And categorically there's only going to be 2 whiskies that are voted for. You can see it a mile away. And I love it when it's this, they're 5 for number 1 and 4 for number 2 and 6 for number 5. Great, brilliant. It means that you've had all good whiskies. I'm loving this. Nothing that's coming up's the same. It's great.
That was the first time from Gaston. Hello, Gaston.
Yeah, he's a friend of ours, lives down the road.
Gaston, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
From South America.
All the way from Argentina.
Yeah, all the way from Argentina.
It's a fair distance to travel to listen to my nonsense.
So there is a lot of different rankings, and that's great.
I like number 4. Number 4 was extra special.
Yeah,
that's where I go as well, John.
Yeah.
I love number 4, but I love them all. I have to say.
No, good.
Normally,
good
I have
great
1 or maybe 2. I don't.
Bob's, you're welcome. Absolutely welcome, sir.
So, but yeah, they're all really convinced with your stuff, I have to say.
I'm really happy. Thank you, Marcus. That's really kind of you. Really
Looking forward to the next one. See that?
So when you have your next one's on the market, we'll give you a call.
Absolutely. I would love to do this again, guys. It's been a pleasure for me. I think when you get the chance, when you do have a passion, this isn't work. This is sharing your passion.
Yes.
And there is nothing better than sharing a passion. And for talking slowly, you're welcome.
Sharing your whiskey is the best thing. Yeah, it's great. It's very good.
So, I mean, that's the best solution to share whiskey.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, it's not live, but it's the best solution we can do.
It's the best one we can do at the moment. Yeah.
And we really enjoy it, to be honest, because it keeps us on track as well. Because we're not allowed to work.
Matthias is asking when we started buying casks. So not that long ago, if I'm being completely honest. It will be about 3 years ago we started buying some casks. So these are not casks. You know, a lot of the stuff that we've got here, we've bought and then finished, but we've bought them when they've been 7 or 8 years old, maybe. We have now got quite a lot of new make spirit that's been bought and laid down specifically for us. So we can really engineer the flavour of that from day one, which is great. I'm waiting on confirmation for a filling contract with Loch Lomond Group, which I'm keeping my fingers crossed comes through. And next year with Distell. So we'll be able to get Leches. Maybe if I ask very nicely, some Bunnahabhain, but we'll some decent, some Obermoor, as well as Loch Lomond, some incredible stuff. So yeah, at the moment we're still kind of running on kind of mature stock. So it's not that long ago, to be honest. But as I say, the vast majority of whiskies that you do buy, there's next to no colour or very little flavour. You've got the spirit, you've got the base spirit, but it's certainly not ready to roll. It's then up to us just to give it that little kind of finishing touch, and then it's good to go. And that's the way we'll continue to do it. You know, not all casks that we will ever release will have been ours from day one. We'll always look around to see if there's some good mature stock that we can get from distilleries. I had a really good conversation with Tomatin the other day about not Tomatin. They won't release Tomatin stock to anyone. They do have some good third-party stock that I might be able to get my hands on. So again, fingers crossed. It's very much not what you know, it's who you know in this game. So you just got to be nice to people and go, "Hi, it's me."
Yeah.
So it worked, obviously. Okay.
So far, so good. So far, so good.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy, yes.
Everybody's happy. I mean, your whiskey is just good. I
No,
mean,
it's good.
You're really good in front of the camera, I have to say. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you very much.
Very sympathetic, yeah.
And yeah, we knew that before. And I'm glad everybody stayed and at least tried to understand what you were saying. And yeah, and they really enjoyed it, and nobody asked for translation.
No, it was.
And I really offered that for the last, I don't know, 5 tastings. I told them, please feel free to tell me that I'm translating, no problem. But they didn't.
No, I've been really, really grateful to the fact that people, you know, it takes a lot of patience, I think, when you're listening to someone speaking in a different language all night. And especially when that language has then got our accent on top of it. So I know that it's not easy for people, and I am very, very appreciative of that. You know, so to all of you, thank you very much. Right, how does it come that
Glengarry.
Oh, Glengarry, yeah, right. Oh, right, okay. So this is the infamous badly spelt Glengarry label.
Ah, okay.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, this was on our first release. There's actually a website that we've managed to make it onto of some of the worst spelt whiskey labels in the world. And we've managed to make it onto it. It's a matter of pride that I'm on that. It was one of these crazy things. It was our first release. We sat down and we got all the label designs sorted, and that was fine. We sent it away to someone who can kind of scale it properly for bottles and blah, blah, blah. It went to the printers. It came back from the printers. Not once. I actually sat, and for the first run that we had, because we couldn't afford to do it properly. We had to do everything as cheap as we could with the labels and stuff. I had to sit and hand number every bottle in the warehouse. And not once did I know that the printer had misspelled Glengarry. They put 2 R's in it. Not once did I looked at over 300 bottles of that stuff, and not once did I notice it. And
The problem is that
everything-
you have 300 bottles in front of you. I can say that
There you go.
because I'm doing 4 websites, 4 Instagram pages, 4 Facebook pages, and I see that like every day in all the advertisement. In every advertisement, there is a misspelling or a mistake or something. It's always something wrong. Sometimes even the time the tasting starts. You look at that like 100 times because, but you're the same. You're like a 3-person company. So
Yeah.
it's not like you have like 10 people watching over it and tell you, oh, that's wrong. So I have nobody watching over it because 90% of the time it's a German. So so you do mistakes because nobody is rereading it.
No.
Yeah.
And everything, I was just so happy. It was all done. Orders were sent out. And we were sitting, feeling quite happy with ourselves. It was a Friday night. There was a good movie on, the fire was on, and sitting with my feet up. And a Belgian distributor, Jurgen, sends a message through saying, you do realise you spelt Glengarry wrong, don't you? And my blood just turned to ice. I was like, what? Sorry, what? And I ran through, because I had a bottle behind me on the shelf, and I grabbed the bottle and I went, oh no! Honestly, I felt so crushed. And I said to him, look, we'll get new labels printed, we'll send you the new labels over, you cover the old label up with the new label. I went, no, people love it. I'm like, sorry, what? He went, yeah, this is now collectible. It's like finding a
Definitely.
the wrong way around. I went, these are great. And honestly, when my first look out to Michael, and I'd known Michael through working with McLeod's in the past, but when Michael said, yeah, I'd like to take some of your stuff, I'm like, I really appreciate it, Michael, thank you. And he was actually angry at me because the first box he opened, it was all spelt correctly.
Oh.
And I went, what the hell am I meant to do with this? And that was meant to go to Masters of Malt in London. They wanted the labels changed. And Michael said, no, I want the ones with the bad spelling. All the others he opened, yes, it had 2 R's. Just one of these ridiculous things that happen. I think when you do make a mistake, I actually had a friend of mine who works for Weems Malts. They released a 28-year-old Bunnahabhain just a short while ago. Really kind of expensive box and all this. And he realised that by the time he got them all printed up, he'd misspelt Bunnahabhain.
Oh.
And he phoned me and went, Kenny, you've been through this. What do you do? What do I do? I went, honestly, laugh it off. Laugh it off. The jokes was...
It's not a tattoo.
It's not a tattoo, yeah.
Exactly. You know, at the end of the day, you know, you see the most expensive, ornate bottles with labels and polished oak boxes. It's a glorified milk carton. When it's empty, it's getting thrown away. So don't worry about it. And I just thought, well, you know what? I'm human. People make mistakes. And I'm just gonna laugh about this and go, yeah, I screwed up monumentally with that name. It's on me. I take all the blame. How I managed it, I do not know. But you know what? It got folk talking about it. And that was a good thing. That was a lovely thing.
Yeah. All press is good press, more or less.
Exactly. But
we're just grateful that we still have a lot on the bottle left. So
We're doing the number 4 again, yeah.
You're doing number 4 again. But
now you just make me jealous.
I'm so sorry.
We should probably come to an end here because the people are starting to go home.
So yeah, we have
Victoria, come here.
Yeah, we want to see Vicky.
Because folk are starting to call it a day. So come and say hello to everybody.
Come and say hello and goodbye.
Come on, Brains.
Brains.
Hello, everyone.
There's the Brains.
Hi, Brains.
So she does exist. It's not an actress I hired for the world.
No, because we talk to her.
We talked to her on telephone.
Actually, more than we talk to you.
Okay, I'll stick then. I'll just go and get a beer. You 3 can talk.
But today's the most English I've spoken for, I can't remember for how long, especially in a row, like 2.5 hours. Yeah.
True.
Yeah, nearly 3.
Yeah.
So,
I always think if we had a radio program, we would be millionaires because he can talk non-stop.
It's getting me to stop. That's the difficult bit.
So how did it go?
Everybody was happy.
Okay. Did you do the vote? What's the favorite?
Yeah, we did a ranking. So not everybody sent his ranking. So for those they're still online, send your ranking. You know, would be perfect.
But the rankings were all over the place.
all over the place.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
It means everybody found their own style of whiskey, which is the point of this whole exercise.
Yeah, sure.
What to
I'm
do? I know, time's ticking on, and as you say, folk are starting to call it a day. If there is anyone who's interested in the cask side of things, what to do is if they can get in touch with you guys. And
Your website is down below as well. As a link.
Perfect. Right, that's great.
For the ones that's still online, you will find all the contact details down below.
All websites, everything.
All the websites, everything. So just click on it.
That's perfect, guys. And you know, if it's
just need to say that we're updating our website, so it will be clearer. And
our website's still a work in progress, but it's getting there. But you can certainly get
nice pictures there as well.
This is also the photographer, so that's why. But you know, if anyone just, it may well be you want to know a little bit more information, but you don't want to do anything about it. That's absolutely fine.
But you can have we can have a separate session about it, basically,
We
just to
can
tell you all the details so that you can imagine the totality or how to say
the cask side of things is easy. It's a really, really easy process. The one thing I would say, whilst everyone's the folk who are still here, just be careful because there are a hell of a lot of sharks out there just now. There was a report came out about 9 months ago from Frank Knight, and they are one of the world's biggest investment broker companies. And they named Scotch whisky as the most investable commodity on the planet.
Premium investment.
And since then, the amount of brand new cask brokers who have just popped out the ground is unbelievable. They're unregistered. They're people who are looking for money. They smell blood.
Well, for quick money, basically.
And it's quick money. They're selling casks that don't even exist.
Yeah, or they sell the same cask to like 5 people.
Yeah, so you really need to do your kind of due diligence. Well, you don't. You ask the company for their due diligence to prove they are registered. They are who they say they are. They do have company's house tax returns. Blah blah. The boring stuff. But but
like
always.
That we should get into details maybe a little bit later. I just wanted, because there's still a couple of folks on. And a couple of folks, they just had their first whiskey tasting tonight. I say they can't deal with barrels so far. We can.
Oh, no, I can understand that.
I just want to say thank you to all the people that signed up again, and still after 1 year, it's a 1 year anniversary. I can stretch that, you know.
It's cool.
It's just cool. 1 year of online tastings. We never thought about that.
No.
I never thought it would be 1 year. We never thought that would be so successful, we have to say. So it's really international tonight. So thanks for all the people in Greece watching. So I have to maybe show that again, because Heather said that that she had to say that it's not only English people watching it. So I'm just looking for your comment, Heather. Two
Australians,
everything more or less, yeah. So thank you for doing that. It's really great that you're joining us as well. So all over Germany, you're watching us all over Germany.
I'm really quite blown away. The opportunity that you guys have given us tonight to be able to bring, you know, our story and our whiskies to people. It's something that we couldn't do on our own. So to give us this opportunity, and I know that I speak on behalf of Victoria as well, is we are incredibly humbled to be asked. It's been fantastic. And, you know, I said that to you guys before. So looking at this one,
It's
And
good whiskey, and it's easy to deal with you people too. And with Michael too, it was no problem. Everything's
Okay.
very easy. It's good.
Like,
Yeah.
like I said, still before you.
Yep.
If the link is down below, but you can get the whiskies, what we have had tonight. So you still have like, I don't know, like at least 2 bottles of each of them. Some of them a little bit more, but
Yes.
not that much more. So be quick.
Oh, I know there's not a lot.
Yeah.
The stuff that's coming out, I can give you a little rundown of what we're going to have coming out in May. Sorry.
Bottling on the 10th of May.
I did mention we've got the Inchfad, which is coming out, which
MPX.
it's again, it's a very subtle Pedro Hemings finish.
Nice.
Hemings and Pete work beautifully well together. We gave it a sample to a friend of ours who's very, very knowledgeable in whiskey. And he said the last time he tasted anything like that was a Bowmore 1996. So we're in good company with this one.
Yeah.
We have got
Benevis and Paulo Cortado.
Benevis, actually, Victoria's working me from the back.
Fine.
Yeah.
Just the running order.
Benevis and Paulo Cortado sherry. We have got a Highland Park, well, technically a secret Orkney.
Yeah.
Wherever that may come from, and Fijian rum. It was actually laid down for the village festival for this year, for Linkwood, but it's ready now. And, you know, we can't keep it any longer. We've got to get it moving. So I explained to Michael, so it's coming out for general release. What else do we have?
It will be just in time for the village in Nuremberg, so it will come out. It will not have the special label or anything because Michael couldn't take the whole cask.
What else have we got? I can't remember.
Then we have Dolmunach.
Oh, really? One of the forgotten. I know, I told you, brains. The Dolmunach Distillery still hasn't released any of their own spirit yet. There have been releases.
They have
from
Distillery only release, and there were 2 single bottlers.
Signatory and Cooper's Choice?
No, it was Duncan Taylor
and
Cooper's Choice.
Cooper's Choice. So it's 5 years old, really, really young whiskey. It's on the site.
Just like Tullibardine, actually.
Just like Tullibardine. It's on the site of the Old Imperial Distillery.
Yeah. Okay.
It's one of the best young spirits I've ever tasted.
It's gorgeous.
So I'm really looking forward to that one hitting the market.
Then we have a Macduff.
We've got a Macduff, which is
first full Buffalo Trace.
Yeah, it's a Buffalo Trace cask.
It's a pure bourbon cask, basically as pure as it can be.
The big ones for me are the Highland Park, the Inchfad, the Ben Nevis, and the Dolmunach. All very, very different
out
features.
Of 6, 4.
Out of 6, 4 of them are the big. And the other 2 are not bad either. But
which is Dumbarton.
Oh, my Dumbarton, my 20-year-old Dumbarton.
Bringing out the green.
You told that earlier. So all the people, you know, there's a lot of new whiskies coming out from your company. Perfect.
Yeah.
So, and do you tell that on your website as well, or do you have?
Not yet. We don't have the new releases yet, do we?
Well,
do you have a newsletter or something like that?
Yeah, we will do. See, once the whiskey is in the bottle, once we know exactly the ABV, the bottle number, then we will put it on the website. Because we book the date of bottling 2 months in advance, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen when we want it.
I was explaining there have been issues.
So we try not to build too much, but as soon as the basically liquid ends up in the bottle, then we will do press releases that we will send to Michael, then we will send price lists, and we will send all the product sheets and all of the stuff. So that will become available ASAP. Actually, we will pre-prepare them before the bottling date. But
are you selling in Greece?
Not yet.
That would be
So Heather, if you're still watching, so we have to bring some next time we're coming down there. So we bring some. Just tell us your favorite, and we will bring that.
If I'm coming to do a tasting on the yacht, I'll bring it with me.
Yeah, perfect. So,
no, I can't. I'm not allowed because of customs, because we're no longer a part of the European Union.
No, now it's only 2 bottles. 2 bottles.
2 bottles I can bring.
Yeah.
I think we need a boat that brings things from Scotland now to mainland Europe. We will call it a whiskey smuggler.
A pipeline.
A pipeline, yeah.
So just stay on the channel, because I just want to say goodbye for the last couple of customers, because there's no much more questions. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you
Great. So much. It was great, and thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for all the lovely comments. That was fantastic. And that you all sent your tasting notes and your nosing notes, and we appreciate that, really.
No, it's great. It's great. It's super tasting. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of information, a lot of
So
fun.
the next
cool.
English tasting, or English speaking tasting, Scottish tasting, is on the 16th of
Friday the 16th.
Friday on the 16th this month. And then we will have a port tasting in English as well, but we don't know the date yet because we have to work out customs.
Yep.
So, but yeah, after that, if you enjoyed this and you want to have more tastings in English or Scottish, and yeah, just let us know. You know, all the links are below. The Dràm website, the shop from Gradls, Whiskyfässla, and all our websites, and Instagram and Facebook and everything.
There, yeah.
Everything is there. Just look down below, and we wish you
a great evening.
Great Easter weekend.
Yes.
So you have another day off tomorrow. Fantastic. And you can sleep in. That's great. And thank you for Kenny. Thank you.
Thanks, Kenny.
Oh, listen, thank you guys. And
it's easy doing business with you guys. Great.
Nice.
do you know, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's lovely when you find people who are so easy to work with. It just feels like we've known each other for way, way, way longer than we have done. That tells you you're dealing with good people. And for all of you who have, you know, sacrificed a good chunk of your day, I cannot thank you enough for spending time to listen to me. It's, as I said earlier, it's humbling for me. It really is. And I would love for, when we do get the chance to come over, that you'll come and see me and we'll share a dram together.
We'll do it. Thanks,
Definitely.
Kenny.
Thank
Victoria,
you.
thanks very much. Take it easy.
Thank you very much. Just stay on, but be in the broadcast. Have a nice rest of the weekend. Enjoy.